A quote from The Last Words of Pep Talk Dragon, redacted.
You're all cowards!
What were you going for there?
You're all cowards.
Like a Mickey Mouse thing going on?
I knew it wasn't gonna happen.
He died laughing, doing what he loved.
Oh, that was great.
Got it in one.
It's a sad loss.
Either way, Pep Talk Dragon's canonically dead for the next 2 books we can't talk about.
Aww.
It's a bonus episode.
I don't know. I think it's
Get
funny.
a little crazy
Okay.
in here sometime.
You're all cowards! Great. Okay. Welcome back to Between Pages and Friends, a book club podcast hosted by Con and Lauren, 2 besties who read a lot of books, and Jon and Kyle, our 5-star husbands who've agreed to read with us. I'm Con.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm John. This is a full series Q&A bonus episode for the Empyrean Series by Rebecca Yarros. So, if you have not yet finished Onyx Storm, please, for the love of Amari, go finish the last chapter and come back. There will be major Onyx Storm spoilers in this episode. You have been warned.
And while it's bittersweet to be finished with Onyx Storm already, we will be discussing all the crazy cliffhanger questions in this episode today. And next week, we'll give one final grand send-off to the Empyrean series with our favorite book-loving sister duo, Lexi and Nicole from Fantasy Fangirls Podcast.
And if you love it here and want to hang out with us between episodes, you'll love what's going on over on Patreon. For $5 a month, you can join our private Discord, monthly book chats, and special live events, or jump into the $10 Found Family tier for an early ad-free episode, merch discounts, and even more perks. Links below. Come join the party.
Go join the party. Come join the party. Come join the party.
Wow.
Wow.
Then come hang out with us and Fantasy Fangirls in person this August at Enchanticon 2025. Enchanticon is a brand new expanded fantasy convention for fantasy nerds of all kinds from Mischief Management, the same amazing event company that created LeakyCon and RomanceCon, so you know it's going to be a top-tier weekend. The 4 of us will be attending as event influencers and hosts for the Throne of Glass Fandom Foundation session. We would love to meet you there. Use our code FRIENDS15 for 15% off your tickets at enchanticon.com.
And lastly, the best way to support the podcast for the low, low price of $0 is to write a review on Apple Podcasts or Audible. It only takes a minute, but it helps more listeners find us and keeps this little book fame growing. Here is a recent 5-star review on Apple Podcasts from our new bestie, A_McGee 2020, titled, "Pop Off, Queen." Love the show. Not only does the book club style format of the show keep you on your toes, our bestie hosts are really cool people to hang with. I started following them on TikTok and quickly expanded to other social media platforms, and I'm now a part of an awesome community on their Patreon. This podcast keeps me laughing for 2 hours, and I love being able to hear their perspective on books. Somehow, I'm still shocked every time Kyle guesses a plot point that went clearly over my head on my first read-throughs. And he doesn't get them right all the time, so it keeps it interesting, especially when John adds in his theories. Thank you. Authors take note. These guys come up with great plots. Wednesdays have become my favorite day of the week with a new pod dropping from our fantastic besties. You will not be disappointed by this pod. Thank you, A_McGee 2020. Let's go.
McGee 2020.
Very nice.
A_McGee 2020.
Thanks, A_McGee under 2020. That's not
Under 2020.
20.
Wait, what?
What just happened?
Well,
Throw
if
it
you're
in
under
some extra.
2020, you can't watch this podcast. Apparently.
She's assuming you have poor vision.
That's because I do and I can't read.
Clearly.
All right. Well, it's super weird not having a pronunciation guide or a chapter recap for you this week, but we are super excited to talk through these big giant cliffhanger questions and Empyrean Series theories. Say that 5 times fast. So let's dive right into the big ones. Are you trying to say it 5 times fast?
Yeah, but I was also laughing at this gift somebody put in there of this
That
old
was
lady
me.
belly flopping as she dives
There she
right
goes.
in. Yep, she's just doing it again. And again. She does and again.
Okay, everybody scroll up.
Okay.
You guys
I
know
did.
how GIFs work, right? It's the same thing.
She just keeps doing it.
It's funnier every time.
Okay, first up, we've had some time to process and think about it and do a little digging on the internet rabbit holes and Reddit threads. So, who do you think the brother is?
In order of what I'd like to see, Bodhi, Garrick, or Brennan.
Brennan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that briefly last time, I think.
We touched on it. Gave a little tap.
Is there a reason that you would like to see Brennan as the Venin brother? That it
Just
rhymes
'cause-
with his name.
Yeah, sure. Brennan the Venom.
Brennan Venin.
Nobody but Brennan, am I right? No, it's because he isn't doing anything else, so he might as well do something in the story. He's
running all of Erasia. He's doing a lot.
He's like been in 2 paragraphs. I don't know. I just feel like he's like involved in the story, yes, but not so much. For it being such like a grand reveal of like, oh my gosh, he's alive, and then for him to be like, I'll be over here for 2 books. I'm like,
Don't mind me.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. John?
I've been racking my brain on this. I really don't know who it could be other than Garrick or Bodhi. Like, I'll be shocked if it is someone else, unless he literally has, you know, an unnamed brother in the world. Like, yeah, it could be Brennan. That would definitely be interesting. I feel like that would also speak to possibly how close they've gotten that we as the readers maybe haven't really seen, if he thinks of him that way.
Yeah.
But with him being there, like, at the end, greeting Violet, it's... Yeah.
he is legally a brother-in-law now, so.
True.
True. Very true.
So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Okay. I feel like I can't fully get on board with it being anybody other than Bodhi or Garrick. I think with just looking through the chapters again, I'm mostly convinced that it's Bodhi, although I still have an issue with like how he would have gotten from retching in the square to like wherever Xaden was with Berwyn. That's like the only part that's not convincing for me. And then with Garrick, I think that could easily be explained with, you know, if he did channel, then he could have he could have just walked to wherever they were. I could see that being more of an emotional impact situation with like Imagin if it were Garrick. So I don't want it to be Garrick, but I don't know. I think I'm mostly convinced that it's Bodhi, but I'm still not 100% on either of them.
I think I could see the Garrick thing only because he was like really stretching himself thin in that fight to distance wield so much. So like maybe he would want to draw some extra power to feel helpful or something. I feel like it really sets it up to be Bodhi just because like all the arguments that Bodhi and Xaden have, and just him being like the second, he's not enough. He's always like even forgotten about sometimes. And even Violet's like, oh yeah, Bodhi, why aren't we considering him as like one of the strongest people? You know, like he's just always this like side person.
And
to maybe
Theophony's
Bodhi.
comment to Bodhi about it.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
just
Yep.
being second and stuff. So it's like always him wanting just to be there or have that. But I feel like it's too obvious at the same time.
I know.
I
feel the
know.
same way.
So that's what makes me not think it's Bodhi, just because it's like right in front of my face. But I don't know. I also think it could be Riddick. So only because I'm kind of convinced that Riddick is Venin already. We'll get into that in this episode. But also because Riddick is the only other person I know of that knows Xaden is a Venin and has seen him struggle for some time. I mean, I know Xaden says several months or 4 months or whatever it
He
is.
says 5.
But it's been several months since the Isles. So I don't know.
I think it was 5 months like since he turned. And Riddick didn't know until several months after that, but...
Well, even then,
I
the only
also-
people that know right at the beginning are Garrick and Bodhi, right?
I think so. And Imagin.
But I don't think it's Imagin.
No. And it's with all the pronouns that Xaden uses in that last chapter. I don't think it would be.
That is true.
Ooh, okay.
All right. Our next question is, who took the eggs? Sounds like a sitcom. Who took the eggs? Anyways.
Classic sitcom.
I was like, or like a game show.
I was going to say like more like a game show maybe, but yeah, you know.
Laugh track.
I am more interested in whether they were taken for good or evil over who took them. Because, like, the elders were killed, sure. But maybe whoever did that is not even the same one that stole the eggs. They could have been stolen to protect them from the murder spree rather than as an end goal of it.
Ooh, good point. Like to hide them after the elders were being
like
killed.
whoever was, saw that the elders were dying and they were like, we got to skedaddle with at least one of each color. But
runs away.
I think they're also pretty heavy too, so you'd think that, I guess, somebody's either stronger. Yeah, but
How big is a dragon egg?
big enough.
All right.
It's about the size of a baby dragon.
Just a little bit bigger than a baby dragon.
That makes sense.
But they're made of metal, so they got to be pretty heavy, unless it's like aluminum, which I doubt. But
Yeah.
come on, man.
Crazy.
I did say alternatively, Luella needed them to bake a big old cake in the afterlife.
Oh.
Luella, don't take the dragon eggs.
They're the best.
That's funny.
Free-range dragon eggs.
Ranged. Oh my god.
I think it really only makes sense that like other dragons took the eggs. I feel like my initial thought, and I feel like it's most likely Irids, since it seems like they can like sneak around pretty easily on the continent. They have to be well guarded as well. I mean, even with the Venin attacking, I feel like there had to have been even extra, maybe guards or whoever. So I feel like it was probably maybe the Irids, whether that was Andarna or Leothin.
Yeah.
Do you think that they would have also killed the elders with their whole like peace mentality?
I don't know. I don't know about the elder thing.
That
I
could
don't
go
know
with
about
like
that.
someone killed the elders and a different person took the eggs, though. And since the Irids are dragons, I assume they could easily carry the weight of half a dozen eggs.
Yeah.
I thought for a little bit that it could be like, isn't it the Zenal army that came to help, like the 40,000 people or whatever, and maybe they like used it as an excuse to get on the mainland to try to steal eggs, since that seems to be like what all the Isles are after, or at least were
Yeah.
at different times. I don't really know how regular humans could sneak in and steal eggs from dragons and kill dragons. Like, I don't really understand that part, but that was just a thought that had crossed my mind. I don't really know
Well,
if
if they're
there's any
from,
weight to it, but
or if there's an all, they just send their luckiest 40,000. They end up getting the eggs.
They're like, what? Wow, what luck! There's a huge battle going on. Just take this.
they walk in.
distraction.
Why are all these elders dead? I don't know. Let's just take the egg.
Yep.
They didn't do any of it.
Well, speaking of that whole situation at the end, who are the 4 missing cadets? Garrick, we know. Maybe Zayden, Bodhi, question mark, question mark, question mark.
Yeah, so Brennan says at the end, but after that display, we all know Ryerson did this. I bet the other 3 are dead. So I think Brennan's counting Zayden as one of those 4, like one of these 4 missing riders. So there would be 3, which I think, I mean, we know Garrick is missing, Zayden is missing, and then Bodhi, but I'm not sure who the 4th would be. I feel like if it were Aric missing, they would make a way bigger deal about him specifically being like not being found or being gone. I don't know though. Like, is there anyone else whose signet might have been helpful during those 12 missing hours that they might have like recruited for whatever their plans were? I also feel like if Sloane were missing, Dane probably would be too. But if there's only one more person missing, then I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I agree with the Aric thing. Like, they would all be freaking out a lot more. I also kind of agree that it would be Bodhi, only because if Zayden's gone, Bodhi's in charge, and instead Brennan is kind of running things to a certain extent.
True.
So like nobody's saying like, call Bodhi out here and whatever. Like, I think they would if Zayden was there, like, because Zayden's
That's
in
a
charge.
good point.
I also thought it could be Panchek, maybe, because he's a writer and he was there, and I don't know if that.
Yeah, my first thought was that they would count Panchek with like among the dead because his dragon is dead.
I
But
didn't know that because his dragon
I don't-
desiccated, so it's not
well,
like they
that's
have,
what I
like, a
mean,
body
yeah.
or something.
yeah, I don't know if they know. I mean, I guess like the other dragons would know. Like Sigale watched
good
that
point.
dragon die, and I think other dragons would be aware that his dragon was dead. But we get no confirmation on page if Panchek also died or not, or if he was Venin and survived. Like, we don't know. So I don't know if they would count him as dead or if he is one of the missing, because he could be Venin.
I mean, a quick point about what you said, Lauren. Desiccation would not be like a removal of the body. It's like dehydration, extreme dehydration. Like all moisture. It would be like a very dried up, shriveled corpse. But I don't think it would.
Raisin.
I was giving like Thanos snap. Like, and it just
No.
That's what I was thinking too.
No.
and blew away in the wind.
That's
That's the wind
disintegration.
sound for those that are
Like a
just listening.
dandelion.
No, it's like it's pretty much what Connor said, like raisined, all just
Ew.
shrunk up and dehydrated.
Interesting.
Which who knows how that would look with a
Agreed.
dragon, because that's not like the scales have moisture in them usually, I would think, but
Yeah, and then I also thought it might be one of the Iron Squad, just because that would be emotionally damaging for a reader. Because at first, when I was thinking that there's 4 missing cadets, that was going to be Riddick, Sawyer,
Oh.
like, and it was the whole group. And then as I was like really thinking, obviously it's Garrick. And then I think it makes sense for it to be Xaden and Bodhi as well. So maybe it's Riddick. Maybe I'm still going with it.
I don't like it. I'm in denial about it.
which could be he's Venin, Lauren. He's not really missing. He's just on their side. Anyway, they said missing cadets. And I know
Yeah, that's
Xaden's
true.
a lieutenant, so I don't. But he also did count him in the missing, so
Right.
he said him by
yeah.
name.
But maybe it's Xaden and 4 missing cadets.
Yeah. Well, so if he was not included, my guess was Garrick, Bodhi, Aric, and maybe like one of the quest squad. I wasn't sure of who, but
But Garrick and Bodhi aren't cadets either, right?
I thought they were still.
Bodhi is. He's in his 3rd year, but Garrick's
Oh,
not. He's
Garrick's
a
not,
lieutenant.
okay.
He's...
Oh.
Gotcha.
Why did I think Bodhi was the same age?
No, he's at school still. He's like their lieutenant somebody under Dane. It goes like Dane, Bodhi.
Oh,
Mm.
yes. Okay. That's right.
So at the beginning of Iron
See-
Flame, there's this like little chart that explains the ranks. So.
I'm just in the mindset of forgetting about Bodhi, and I.
Oh yeah. That's what we're supposed to do. I actually saw some random theory that said his second signet was turning invisible, and that's why everybody forgets about him because he's trying to be incognito all the time.
Interesting.
But I
Okay,
don't have any.
alright.
I didn't put it like
Yeah.
in the episode official because I didn't feel like I had any merit to it. But we're
yeah,
talking
you
about him
did.
being forgetful, so it's in there. What do you think, John?
I think Bodhi and Garrick for sure, especially with Imagin asking about Garrick. But she obviously already knows. I think it was just a ploy to make her, seem
Yep.
inconspicuous.
I agree
don't
with
think
that.
I don't think Aric, because he was the one to escort the troops in, right? From whenever they came in, didn't they say they saw him or whatever? Yeah. So he could just kind of be with them or something, still with the troops.
Yeah.
Did you have a thought?
Well, I just was thinking that I don't think Imagin knows. I feel like Imagin wasn't. I feel like she wasn't there until the last second because they didn't
Perception.
want anybody to know.
Because even in the last episode, we talked about how she was like, and Garrick, and then awkwardly looked down. Oh, and your hand, and then looked down, and she
I might have.
was leading
I don't know.
questions.
I might have changed my mind. I don't know if she was there the whole time. I guess I'll say that. I feel like maybe she only knows a piece of it, or maybe she had seen the ring, but she didn't actually know about Garrick, or she knew about Garrick but not Xaden.
So I don't know. So here's my thinking. So you don't think Imagin was there at the ceremony or whatever, whenever that happened?
Maybe not.
She's the
I
maid
don't
of
know.
honor.
I feel like.
I don't know, man.
I feel, I think only because if it's so important that even Violet doesn't know anything, then I don't think it's safe for Imagin to know stuff.
Maybe she erased her own memory, and she's looking down at the ground where she wrote on her hand, "Ask about Garrick." Oh my god.
And Garrick,
and that's why she looks down.
in your hand, yeah.
Yeah. And your hand? Oh yeah.
I could get onto that theory, Kyle. That's no, I'm fully in my headcanon. She's maid of honor, and
Yeah,
Garrick
same.
is the best man, and they had this whole cute little moment. Maybe even with Aric or somebody from
Aw,
Dune's
that's
temple.
cute.
It's a whole little moment.
I love that
Aric
you're.
officiated the wedding.
Yeah, why not?
I
That's
love
what
that
my
you're
head's
thinking
making
they
up.
had an actual wedding and not just
Yes.
a court office. Here's a legal document. Drain my memory. We got to get out of
You
here.
still have
They-
to have witnesses to sign,
Yeah, I know,
Kyle,
but,
and they can
you're
still
s-
be called best man and maid of honor.
Modern times.
Yes.
I could see them having at least some kind of romantic moment as a mini ceremony. I don't know that it would have been a full on
Yeah, I would agree. It was
But-
quick, but
Yes.
But what's interesting about that is, if Garrick was there, would Bodhi also have been there? Because if one or the other is the brother and is Venin, then and the other is there, how?
Didn't the Onyx Storm or whatever Xaden didn't it knock out Berwin, and it knocked out the brother and whatever? So maybe if it was Bodhi or somebody
Oh
else,
my
and they're all
God,
just
yeah.
like sitting there knocked out for however long.
So if we can
This
find
is our best
out
man.
who,
Drag him down the aisle.
if we can find out who all was at the
Weekend at
wedding,
Bernie's.
it's a
Yes.
process of elimination. That's what we need. We need the party member at the
You
birth.
need like the
Anyway.
clue diagram would knock people off of who's where when.
Yeah, I was like, was it Bodhi in the field with the
Right.
dragon?
So
Satan with
so
the
yeah.
ring?
Anyway, I really don't think one of them is Aric. It would make it interesting if it's a couple like Iron Squad peeps. Maybe they got like stuck up in the pass or something, because we don't know
Yeah.
what happened to the people in the Madaro Pass or anything about that.
No.
So maybe they were like, maybe some of them were like killed or like taken hostage. Like, is that something Venin do? Like, I don't know.
Maybe if
Interesting
they thought
either
they
way.
could use it as leverage, I feel like I wouldn't put past them at this point.
Yeah, or torture them for information.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Ugh, I don't like this.
Well, that's what it's gonna be.
I know.
all right. Next up, how will Violet get her memories back? There are some thoughts that say Dane will be able to see her memories. Some others that she will dreamwalk Imagin to get the information back. Thoughts? Queries?
I personally don't think that she'll recover them all at once. I think most of book 4 will be her maybe piecing things together or like having dreams about snippets of it, either of her
Drememories?
own dream memories, if you will. Yes. Either of her own, like, I don't know if that's even possible, if Imagin has erased the memory, but it's still, somewhere in her subconscious and she has a dream about it. But I feel like it's more likely that she would walk into Xaden's dreams, even if they are separated. If we don't get some mind spicy scenes, I might be a little upset about that.
Whoa.
Because that's the only way it can happen. If they're separated for the whole book,
We're gonna have a
And
different
it would be
POV, and it could be some other couple.
we could. Yeah, that's true. We could. I don't know. I feel like it would be quote unquote safe for them to interact that way if it was a dream, because he couldn't channel
Or
in a
get her
dream.
pregnant.
Yeah.
Or get her pregnant.
Stay safe, kids. Only do it in your dreams.
In your dream.
In your dream.
Okay.
Be right there.
See you tonight.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I feel like that's how she'll get some of the memories back, or like be able to interact with Xaden or like talk to him. But I think even if Violet is desperate for that information, she would trust herself enough to not ask Dane to retrieve the memories, because there was clearly a reason she needed them gone.
Yeah,
So if she trusts that like she asked to not know, then I feel like she would trust her own scribe brain self to not like go
I think it
against
just
that.
goes into like how powerful Imogen's signet is, because it
Yeah.
says like it erases memories. It doesn't just like hide
Right.
them from you. Like, so is it
Yeah.
mean they're gone? Like they are nowhere
girl.
to be found. Like she couldn't eventually get them. Like Dane wouldn't be able to find them in her or in her subconscious
Right.
or whatever. I think that would answer that. I agree that Rebecca is going to drag it out all of book 4, and then it's going to be some really cute interaction at the end with her and Xaden, where she like finally remembers and something kiss emoji erotica, the whole bit. But
And he'll say, you just
I
had
don't
to ask the
know.
right question. I would have told you.
Oh my god.
yeah, I don't
He
have.
would.
I know. I don't think it will be involving Dane though, to answer that theory that's out
Yeah.
there in the world.
I don't think so either.
I sort of read this and I was like, well, the question itself assumes she will get them back. And I don't know if there's a good enough reason for her to do so. 'Cause sort of like you said, she would trust herself and think that's not something I need to know. I'll be filled in later. Even if she doesn't have the exact memories, someone could fill her in. Because for like all the loss we've had in these books, we've had equal amounts of like, just kidding. Like someone gets hurt.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
they're fine. Or like, oh, this person's dead. But no, they're not. And I feel like if she got her memories back, especially if it was like early in the book, it would tip the scales of suspense toward cheap blows rather than grand reveals. Because
Yeah.
like if that's the whole cliffhanger to this book. And if it was solved early on, you probably feel like, oh, okay, well, I feel dumb for thinking about it now.
Yeah, I added to that and said, and like I agree with that, although I could see that being some form of that power development through her, that dream power that she
Yeah.
has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
What if Imagin accidentally erased more than just that moment? And now she like forgets Xaden or forgets, and it's one of those moments where now she's like, fall
and
back
there's
in
a new
love
love
with him.
interest.
No,
Doesn't it
she'd
just
have
go
to
12
fall in
hours?
love with him.
I thought they said it only goes 12 hours. Imagin's signet.
When did it say that?
I thought it said at the very end where she was like, "Oh, I don't remember the last 12 hours," and that was like the reason.
Oh,
maybe
well, she had been missing for 12 hours.
Yeah,
Okay,
not
okay,
that
maybe
Imagin signet does that. It's just there's
Yeah.
12 hours
Gotcha.
of missing.
I thought it was just an easy half day gone with her signet.
But also, it doesn't say like do you lose all of that time, so she doesn't, or can Imagin pick certain moments that you forget, or so it's like did she accidentally erase more? Is I guess what I'm saying, but that's just me throwing random crap out there.
I will say even if Violet can't get those memories back, like from her point of view, I mean, we know that she can kind of share memories with Xaden and Taran, like they in the should I get the wing leader moment in book 1 where he sends her like flashbacks of the night before. Like I think something like that could end up happening, or like maybe like you said, maybe at the end of the book it's like a cute moment if they finally find the cure or whatever they're gonna do, and then she gets the sweet moments from their ceremony or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. All right. In this last chapter, Andarna says she won't let them burn Violet. Who was she referring to? The Irids or Brennan or somebody else?
I had assumed that this was a reference to how they burned that other girl who was a traitor or whatever. Don't remember her name. But like Andarna knew Violet did something traitorous.
Liam's mom?
No. The girl that like they executed with dragonfire in front of everyone at the college.
Oh, the wing leader who helped them in the door.
Oh, yeah.
Amber?
Amber
Yeah.
maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like that. So she technically has done something traitorous, like marrying the enemy. So I could see Andarna being like, I'm not going to let them burn you for that or whatever.
Yeah. I agree. Figured this was a traitor thing. I said, but she probably would have known what Imagin did though. So I don't know, like erased her memory or whatever.
It's almost like they got to that moment and that's when Imagin erased the memories, because it almost feels like we're in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
Like that Violet was like active participant in whatever her and Andarna were talking about, and then Imagin like erased her memories while she's literally sitting there right in front of Arisha.
Yeah.
And that's when she's like coming.
I kind of figured that. Yeah, that would have to be the case for her to be suddenly like, "What is going on?" Because
and he didn't include Imagin and whoever was missing, so Imagin must have already been there and came out to meet Violet.
He wasn't like freaking out about it. So maybe Violet just showed up and Imagin wasn't there. I see what you're saying.
And she was like, "Here's what I need you to do real quick, like right now before anybody comes out here."
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you on that.
Wow.
So maybe Imagin wasn't there. Oh, who was her maid of honor?
Well, I don't. That's what I mean. She might have been there for part of it and knew that she needed to come out and meet her. Like, I don't know if their dragons just relayed that and she came outside real quick before like Brennan ran out, or I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If you think Andarna would let anyone else be her maid of honor,
That's such a good point. How dare I forget Andarna? That's funny. Okay, so in the same conversation, we learned that Taran is like needing rest for a cycle, I think is what it says. And so full cycle. So the question is, what did Taran do? Why does he need rest? What the heck is happening? And I'm going to throw in there, what's a cycle? like your monthly cycle, a moon cycle.
I love how you said your monthly cycle and your moon cycle, like the two closest related cycles you could get.
It's the two that I came up with. Your bicycle.
Dragon cycle.
Okay, well, my short answer to this is I don't know. I don't really have
next question.
any super strong theories. But there were a lot of theories submitted for this, so I did want to at least kind of acknowledge like what other people were talking about. So there were some theories submitted suggesting that Taran and Sigale broke their bond so that Sigale could go with Taran for as long as necessary, and that's why he needed rest so badly, because he was like grieving that bond being broken, like we saw with Andarna and Violet.
I think.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. Someone also did you want to do your note?
Yes, I had never occurred to me, so I was just like, ooh,
Weren't
I
you
never
the one that brought it
considered
up
this,
last
but
episode?
ouchies. Did I?
I don't think so.
I think so.
So
Because I was like, oh my God, I never thought of that last episode. I don't know. You're the editor.
no
You'll
idea.
figure it out.
I have no idea.
Cut this out if it's not. Imagin, are you here?
Someone also suggested that Andarna helped Taran and Sigil sever the bond, but it didn't seem like her bond with Violet was ever fully severed, so I'm not sure that Irid bonds work the same way, or I don't know that an Irid could just at will sever a bond that wasn't theirs. Like, if they could just sever a bond between another mated pair of dragons, that doesn't seem like something that would be...
Yeah. I mean,
Wait, say that again? With the Irids?
Yeah, like, I know Leothan said, like, you're an Irid, you are magic, just sever your bond with Violet. But it was kind of, I don't think she got the slide whistle, did she? There was just like a wall there, and she couldn't access Andarna anymore, and she was just like gone.
Yeah.
And I don't think it happened when she came back, right?
Like, my thinking is that it kind of seemed like he broke their bond between Andarna and Violet himself.
Yeah, I don't know. But, like, that seems crazy to me, that, like, a dragon could just go up to any other mated pair of dragons and just sever their bond.
I could see it being easier for like a human to dragon or something. It's the dragon to dragon that I don't know if I would see that works. It would be
different breeds.
I don't want to say convenient because that super sucks for Taran and Sigil, but at the same time for the story and Xaden kind of going off, that would be a convenient thing to happen for them so that they're not like, if it's one cycle, whatever that is, of him feeling like he needs rest or to recoup, but then he's generally going to be okay compared to the potential pain or whatever of them being separated for long.
And it's also one of those things where it's like, it does suck, but it is the bond. It's not like the bond was their feelings for each other or anything. It's like, that's why he's so sad about it. It's not like he lost the bond and was like, I don't know who that girl is, sort of thing. But
yeah. That's true. I don't think I'm really convinced on either of these things, but I also don't have any other theories to suggest in their stead.
I maybe, as we're like going through these, I maybe think that Sigil and Taran mutually agreed to break their bond to not only maybe protect themselves, but also maybe Xaden and Violet moving forward now that all this has gone down.
Well, especially because Sigil says like he'll never agree to it or whatever. Yeah. Like at the end.
Oh yeah.
And it's I would assume referencing Taran and something happening with Violet. So.
Right.
Oh well, I think that was the conversation. Well, I guess that might have been part of the plan. I think that was the conversation about Xaden marrying Violet and like leaving Tyrandor to her. But then that would have included Sigil needing to leave with him. Yep.
Yeah.
So maybe that did mean Taran would never agree to like.
She says he'll never agree. Like I guess it could be like he'll never agree to let Violet marry you. But I kind of
I don't think. I think you're right.
I don't know.
That's interesting. I feel like that would be more plausible just in my own head, all of the evidence we have to back up these theories. That feels more plausible to me that Sigil and Taran could choose to sever the bond rather than like Andarna coming in as like a different breed of dragon. Although even if she is magic or whatever, it just feels more, that feels more solid to the world. I don't know. I'm still conflicted, but that makes sense to me. However,
seemed to like sever the bond between Xaden and Violet as well. Since that's
that
like
bridge.
Violet tries to reach for him and she can't find him at all. Like it's not just like a wall of black or a wall of ice or whatever else she's described it as. It's like gone.
He gone.
Yeah.
I will say Xaden would have to have a really good flipping reason for Sigil to put him and Violet above her mating bond with Taran. Like that's kind of mind-blowing to me. The fact that they would choose to put their riders above themselves, especially after all of the, could make sense for the plot because we've had so much world building about how like nothing is more important than the bond between two mated dragons. And so this is them like actively choosing to put their own riders before their own elves and like their mate. So that's, I just want to know the plan. I want to go to the 12 hours. I want to know what's happening.
We had another theory that Andarna maybe manipulated time and was on the Isles for years during her little stint away.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wrote a longer answer. I'm a real big fan of like, okay, not a fan. I love and hate time related things in books and fiction and everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like this would be a massive jump in power from what she's previously done, like localized time distortion for Violet and Violet alone, or Taran, I guess, 'cause she was relying on him. Because it would basically mean like an island-sized bubble that she could learn and grow her talents and train with others who she also changed time for. And it just seems like a lot to write off for just a comeback and would again, sort of cheapen that growth. Just be like, oh yeah, I just paused time for years. Now we're good.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Well, and
Could
whenever... Go ahead.
I don't know if I want to say it. I kind of want to get into it. Could it have been the other Irids though?
On the Isle.
Yeah, could it
they
have been
stopped
like
time.
there? Yeah, just
But
like
then-
collectively.
There's also the, like, early on, I'm pretty sure Taran was, like, saying, yeah, she's this age now. She'll be fully grown by the time you are done with your years at Bezgaeth or
Right.
whatever. So I would think that would mean if she stopped time and was, aging in that little bubble, unless they also stopped aging, then she would be fully grown now.
True.
Yeah.
Well, and with how much, like, the rapid growth, like, when last time she used her power, and then all of a sudden, that was the end of Fourth Wing, and all of a sudden at the beginning of Iron Flame, she's so much bigger, and how it
Yeah.
was really unhealthy for her, because now her, like, wing doesn't work right, and, like, all the other issues that she has. I don't feel like the Irids would encourage that when they're already, like, you've mutilated your body and your tail, and, like, all these things, and, like...
That's true.
I just don't feel like they would encourage that from her, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Guys, we have been talking for a really long time, and there is no breaks because we're not reading the series. So, honorary jaw tick drink.
Oh,
Real
yeah.
quick? Okay.
Cheers.
Jaw tick for this. Yeah, take a drink.
Wow, we got some varied drinks tonight. It's usually all the same.
What's everybody drinking tonight?
I'm still water.
I got some Chick-fil-A.
Nice.
We had some dinner.
John,
Huh?
what are you drinking?
Well, I had some non-alcoholic stuff, but now I've finished with that, and now I'm on to water.
And I have John's favorite summer drink, orange juice and Malibu,
Yeah, baby.
Nice.
and also some water.
Oh, yeah. All right, we're moving on to another possible theory that's out there, that Liam put a rune on the miniature Andarna that he whittled, allowing his spirit to visit Violet when needed. What do we think?
I can't see this actually being like his spirit coming to her because of this rune, but I really love the idea of him carving little runes into these little dragons and handing them out to his friends. I think that's super cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun theory, but like, if it were true, I feel like we would have seen a lot more of him, or like his
Yeah.
spirit or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good
There
point.
is a theory that Riddick sees Liam.
Oh,
So, I saw that in all my research.
Interesting.
When they're, like, around Sawyer's hospital bed, and Riddick was all talking about how he's trying to be on Quest Squad, and he kind of says, like, I'll take care of her or whatever, that he, like, looks past Violet or something when he says it, and people think he's talking to Liam,
oh,
Whoa.
because that was, like, the last thing he told Liam, that he would take care of her or watch her or whatever. So maybe
See, I
Liam's
feel
just
like
you know, I wanna
the
go back and
ghost of
find that.
Bezgaeth. He's nearly headless Nick, just walking around the college.
he's the new pep talk dragon. He rises again.
Liam and Pep Talk Dragon. Best
well.
I just feel like this would take insane foresight and a connection between him and Violet that just wasn't there. Like, not only would he have to know or have a strong feeling like, I'm going to die in the duty of protecting you, so I'm going to leave you a rune that allows my spirit to visit you, but he would also have to care so much for her to be willing to, like, anchor a piece of his soul, literally, with that rune, and be like, I will always come to this rune. And I feel like if he was going to do that, he'd send it to Sloane over Violet, to send it to his little sister and be
Yeah.
like, I'd rather visit my sister
Or
occasionally
even
True.
Zayden.
than
'cause that's
my
his
best
brother.
friend's hookup, which is what she was at that point.
Good point.
Yeah, I don't think this would have been like a Horcrux situation, but if it was like a little protection rune or like something cute like that, I don't know. I could see him doing something on that small scale, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't have an explanation for Liam at all as a character, other than Rebecca trying to rip my heart out again and again. So Liam coming back
fair.
at all was just Rebecca's ploy to make me cry.
Yeah.
And it works every time.
I will also say,
That's all I got.
I fully disbelieve that it is his spirit visiting her. It is her hallucinating her version of Liam.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I did see in my, rabbit hole that I went down for this episode. I did see a theory that her visions of Liam were tied to Varish because his signet was like seeing people's weaknesses or something. And so because it only happened like twice, and it was both times was in like Varish's, little torture chamber situation. And Varish was like in the room. I don't know if he was in the room both times or one of the times, but we had a conversation about that moment where it almost seemed like Varish responded to Liam, even though he was it could also have been interpreted as like him just carrying on the conversation. So there was that led to like a whole kind of theory about that.
Like he may have been even like partially controlling her hallucination,
Yeah.
even kind of thing.
In some way, because like one of her weaknesses was how much she loved her friends, and he couldn't get through to her by all the other stuff that he had tried.
Maybe it was like a weird like version of her own dream walking, but like for her own dreams.
Yeah.
And that was just
Interesting.
how she was seeing it.
Maybe it was
Because it was
Quinn
herself.
astral projecting and just there to encourage.
Oh,
Didn't save her.
really sweet.
Just out there to talk to
R.I.P..
her. Oh my gosh.
No, that's really interesting because we'll talk about this a little bit later, I think. But I mean, we've already seen Violet like kind of slip into someone's mind while they're both awake, like in the throne room scene in Iron Flame, and that was also in Iron Flame. So it could have been different forms of that second signet manifesting.
Yeah.
All right. Next theory. Violet will turn Venin, and together she and Zaddy will cure Venin who want to be cured. I was convinced that this would happen in book 3, like that Violet would either turn Venin or go with Theophony. So I don't think that it's completely off the table, but I would hope that the solution is more simple than her just turning and using her existing power. I feel like most Venin wouldn't want to be cured if given the chance, if it was just as simple as her like turning Venin and zapping him or something. I don't know. I have a little more on this later.
I don't mind this theory. I kind of like it. It would make for a very interesting plot line, especially like them being trained, like them moving forward and getting trained by the Venin, having been trained as writers for a while, especially
Yeah.
Xaden.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of my take.
I have a hard
I like
disagree on that. I just feel like Violet is the only hope that we have, I guess, like because she's had multiple opportunities to turn, even like Stephanie, the Theophany, putting her like literally forcing her hand on the ground and trying to get her to like draw and stuff, and Violet has resisted it so much that I feel like if then now Violet would turn, it would just almost be like, what was all that for? I don't know. I feel like it would just lessen it. And if Violet turns, I don't feel like there's any hope. Like the Venin have won, like, or like that's going to end up being the new answer is that, oh, everyone can be a Venin and it's fine or something. And I don't feel like that's right. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like a natural progression story-wise, since they've always talked about like, oh, the Venin children, the Irid said, will be able to overcome it, that the progression would be her and Xaden having a kid and them being the key to the future. But I've been told that Rebecca says babies are off the table, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't trust Rebecca though, so
Nope.
I don't
Love
think
her.
that's like off the table
Don't trust.
completely. Especially with the Jasenia's whole thing at the very beginning of the books. How she's like curator of the scribe quadrant at Basgiath, and this has all been transcribed. So this is obviously happening at some point in the past.
Rebecca has said she's against it when there has not been talk beforehand.
Yeah.
Like she's against surprise.
So there has been talk
So
then.
they could have a
Very
conversation
vague.
and decide that they're going to have a kid or something. You know, and then that would be okay. I could see it being like the whole idea of the whole concept of this book is that it takes one generation to rewrite history
Yeah.
and another to like, you know, believe that it's true. So I
that's
could
true.
see that this is now the generation that's, you know, changing it again. And then the next generation, like Violet's children, could be potentially another answer of things.
Gen V. For,
Yeah, Gen V for Violet.
I could see that would be hard to do in an epilogue, I guess. I was going to say I could see some of that explanation of like, you know, the generations and how we got from this current story to Jasenia writing it as like the curator of the quadrant or something. Like I do think we'll get an explanation of that. Maybe at the end of book 5 or something, I could see it being like an epilogue, but that also feels like a lot to squeeze into an epilogue if they don't have a kid in this series, or I don't know. That's interesting.
I feel like Rebecca squeezes so much in though on these pages compared to
that's
other
very
writers or other authors that I've read. She just like so much happens in a short amount of time. So maybe
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
That is true.
Maybe.
And I also like that she's comfortable skipping like a few months if there's not stuff going on. Like, you know, we'll skip to the next threshing or whatever it is. So
Yeah. All right. Who do you predict will be the next big bad after Theophony?
The brother.
My brother.
I don't know. It's just kind of a guess.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced, but I don't know.
I could see that. I have some theories about that later too. I could also maybe see Naolin, if he is still alive in Venin. General Daramore, perhaps. I have more on both of those things later.
I don't remember who General Daramore is.
I think that's the point. I think she wants you to forget about him. So we'll talk about it later. But he was basically, General Daramore was somebody from the Great War, like however many years ago. He was like he was the one who like fought against the first 6 in the Great War and like ruined the barons.
Interesting. So he's Venin already.
That's my assumption. I don't think that's stated. I don't remember.
Got it.
I have some notes on it later. I think I pulled some stuff from the book.
Okay. I just feel like there was all this hype at the beginning for Melgren, and then Melgren is just not in this book, like at all. Like I don't think he was
or
in
Markham, really.
Onyx Storm. I'm over Markham, but maybe I guess. I just feel like there was all this like fear and whatever with Melgren when they first saw him in like Threshing and all this stuff at the beginning, and then in Iron Flame whenever they like started separating and they had that meeting. But he was like not in Onyx Storm at all. And then I keep waiting for us to meet more of King Tauri. Like we meet him at that party the one time when he just wanted to like lay eyes on Xaden once a year or whatever. But I feel like he's got to be a pretty evil dude if he's just let all these like he won't open his borders and he's like doing all this stuff that just doesn't feel like, even if he's not Venin, he's still not a great person. And like if Aric doesn't like him, I don't like him either. So
Yeah. You know what?
if Halden does like him, I don't like him.
I don't have any evidence. I think just based off of a feeling, a vibe, if you want to call it that. I think that I do agree. I think we will see a lot more of King Tauri in book 4 or maybe 5. I think he'll end up being like a key player somehow, but I feel like he won't be the big bad. He might just be like a huge hindrance on their side of things because of all of that, like because he won't open the borders and it seems like he's still trying to act like nothing's happening and everything's fine, and that's why Aric came to the Writers' Quadrant and stuff. But I don't know. I think he could turn out to be some kind of big bad, but I don't know.
I could see him being Aric's big bad, like while Violet and Xaden or whoever's taken on the actual Venin, Aric attempting to actually make the country good again, and the dad being in his way. But
I want to know why he's called King Tauri the Wise. Because he seems kind of dumb.
That's great point.
Oh, when you're a king, you just tell people to call you what you want to be called. Like, what are they going to do?
That's fair.
Well, if we're going with like all the gods and stuff, so like would he be Hedon, God of the Wise or whatever?
Yeah.
Like if everybody has a god somehow attached to them, or
That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, aside from that, we got some questions about Naolin. What do you think actually happened in the battle where Brennan, quote unquote, died? Is the rune scar on his hand from that battle?
I'm guessing that Naolin probably sacrificed himself in some way to save Brennan. Maybe that was turning Venin, maybe it wasn't. The rune on his hand is very interesting because we don't know if it like holds power or not, or if it was just after power was used or transferred or whatever it might be. Like maybe Naolin weaved his life force into Brennan via that rune. And like that's kind of how he saved him in some way. I don't know.
I didn't even think about the rune holding power or not. I've just always assumed it was an active rune.
Exactly.
So that changes some of my
Yeah,
thoughts.
because we know some runes can just be like
they're
they're used or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have to have like the alloy as part of them for that to be the case?
She's weaving runes onto random pieces of wood.
I guess
Glass.
that's true. Yeah.
Yep.
It's the magic you pull into the item you're putting the rune on.
So this led me down a path of thinking because we still haven't heard of anyone using like blood for runes or carving them directly into their skin. So I feel like this is a unique instance, at least as far as we know in Violet's POV. So my first thought is like maybe Naolin, in an attempt to save Brennan's life, knowing his magic wasn't going to be enough on its own, or because Naolin was a siphon, so like he couldn't mend Brennan. I don't know if he was just trying to like siphon his power into Brennan and hope that Brennan could mend himself. I don't really know how that works. So I don't know if the rune was like for that, if it was supposed to be in an effort to like heal him with whatever power he was putting into his body. And then maybe if that still wasn't enough, that's the point where he burnt out or channeled or whatever to save him. But if the rune on his palm was not related to his near death and that whole incident with Naolin, why would a mender have like a super obvious permanent scar? So I have zero evidence for this, but number one, this is a more popular theory. I'm still convinced that Naolin and Brennan were lovers. And two, now I'm wondering if maybe this happened before that incident and they were trying to forge some kind of blood bond between the two of them by like carving these runes into both of their hands. Like if we see Naolin at some point and he also has a rune like that on his hand, I think that could be interesting. Like if that is something that connects them, that would cause some really interesting implications if like Naolin is alive in Venin and they're still connected somehow. But I don't know. So that's kind of where my brain went with that. I did see a theory that Naolin essentially regenerated Brennan with the rune, similar to a wyvern, and that he could be connected with him or control him somehow that way. However, if that was the case, I don't think Brennan would be. Yeah, I know that is wild. I feel like Brennan wouldn't be able to survive inside the wards because the wyvern die inside the wards. Obviously, he's a human, so that's different. But yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. I mean, Brennan's healed people, even Violet, she still has a scar. It just depends on like how quickly he gets to the injury, I guess. So maybe, I don't know, that was the last thing healed or something that it left a scar still.
Yeah, because they said menders are different from healers because of that. Like healers can heal it to the point where it's non-scarred, but menders, it's literally just putting it back together, sealing it up.
Oh.
No, a healer is not magical. It's just a regular person with stitches and
like a nurse.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. I thought they were saying, "Oh, you're a healer. Go to the healing quadrant."
Yeah.
Well, they had a mender in the healer's quadrant, right?
Maybe that's
Isn't
what
that
I was
where
confused
Naolin?
by. Yeah,
that's Naolin.
Yeah,
that's what I was confused by.
Yeah.
I agree about the romantic thing that you were saying. Mostly because of this interview that happened with Rebecca not too long ago on her Onyx Storm tour. And so I looked up the video again just to make sure I had it right. And so the audience member asks, can you tell us a little bit more about the relationship between Brennan and Nao? And Rebecca immediately goes, no. And so everybody awkwardly laughs, and the audience member tries to be like, is it romantic? And tries to finish her sentence, but Rebecca just cut it off and then just says very serious face, I think logically if someone was going to die for someone, they would have to have a pretty good reason. And then she just puts her mic down and just stares at everybody. And it's I was like, okay, dang, sure. So to me that feels like there has to be some sort of connection to him, whether or not they're just good friends or, romantic, love of some sort.
Yeah.
Some reason for Naolin to save Brennan when the rest of his family, from Naolin's point of view, is probably sucks because it's just Lilith. He doesn't know Mira. Mira's not Epic. Vi is a kid at that point. She's, so it's not there would be any other connection for Brennan other than whatever him and Naolin have. Sure. So that makes me feel like it has to be more than just a friendship.
Yeah.
So.
That's funny. Rebecca's acting like Taran. Somebody brings up Naolin. She's
goes,
like, no. We do not talk about the one who came before.
But for real, that's exactly what happened.
This almost kind of tells me that Ellen is most likely alive still.
Yeah, if she's not willing to talk about it, absolutely.
Right?
No, not even that, but her comment, if someone was going to die for someone, they would have to have a pretty good reason. So maybe she's saying that he's not, maybe that was her way of saying he's not dead. Kind of.
Oh. Or that Brennan was going to die for Naolin, but he saved him.
Or Naolin didn't have a good reason, so he didn't die for him.
Right, or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
That was cute, Con.
Thank you.
But all right. Yeah, interesting either way. Next theory here is that Naolin is Venin, and that's why Taran is so against Xaden turning. What do we think?
Hard agree. Yes.
Hard. I definitely agree, but that gives me hope that Taran survived Naolin, and so Sigale can do the same with Xaden.
Ooh.
If Naolin is still out there being a Venin and doing his thing, and Taran's able to bond a new rider and do all these things, Sigale should hopefully be okay if Xaden just stays full Venin or whatever. So
yeah.
I just
Kyle.
have my gif of the guy from Futurama just saying, I have no strong feelings one way or the other. I feel like Nail has been so uninvolved. I
Yeah.
really won't care how he shows up if he does. I'm like, okay, there he is.
He'll probably be like Brennan and be like, I'm here, but I'm gonna do it from this.
Right, yeah.
I'll be in the Barrens if you need me. Yeah.
Him and Brennan ride off into the sunset.
I was thinking the more and more we got to the end of Onyx Storm, I thought this was probably more and more likely. It would definitely make for another interesting plot point because I feel like Brennan would probably have known this the entire time, let alone Taran. So like,
Oh, yeah.
but it would be interesting if Brennan knew it because I don't know. I just feel like dragons have that sense of like they're holding on to information. The humans got to kind of find it out on their own. But if Brennan knows, it's like, what was his excuse? Like, if Naolin's alive, but I guess then that makes me think that if Naolin is alive, then he's not Venin and he's just like literally hiding out somewhere. But that's kind of weird. Like, why would you do that?
Why would he do that?
I don't
Maybe
know.
Brennan was unconscious or something, and while he took off, and that's why his scar wasn't able to be healed.
Yeah, that's what I was
quickly
thinking too.
Yeah.
and, or something.
Yeah, because if Naolin was alive and not Venin, you would think he would still be bonded to Taran, unless he somehow did something crazy and severed it and survived.
Yeah.
Also, like Taran agreed to never like actively lie to Violet, and so to me it makes sense that he would not even want to have the conversation. Like, I don't want to talk about Naolin because then I'm gonna have to lie to you or something.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Okay, this is our last like theory in this section. I'm sure we'll end up talking about Brennan and Naolin again later, but for here it says Brennan's rune is a communication rune to Naolin, and he's been keeping in touch this whole time. To me, this feels like a super, super stretch of trying to figure it out. Like, I agree that the rune is something, but like Violet's seen a communication rune, like she was working on one, and it was like directionally wrong. So like she would see Brennan's and not recognize it. Feels like it can't be that. So I don't agree with that one, at least.
Yeah.
He does like rub it occasionally and stuff. Like maybe that's where like the I meant the communication. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna say it's not that. Maybe it's like a tracking rune. I don't know. Maybe she's seen one of those too. So
It's like one of those the little love wristbands that you and your significant other wear. You push a button and the heart lights up. It's just like he pushes his rune and Naolin's like, oh, he's thinking about me.
That's funny. Okay, well, honorary jaw tick for this episode. Get a drink, refresh
Cheers.
yourself. Cheers, Dookies.
Yum. Well, another
we got a big
theory.
one.
Yeah, this one's got a lot under it. Another theory is that Andarna channels from the sky.
The sky.
Yes. I'm big into this theory. I'm pretty sold on this one. I had a lot of
wasn't
thoughts
until I researched all of it for this, and now I'm
Yes.
sold.
I'm so sold on this. I had a lot of thoughts like formulating some on my first read, but like especially on the reread. But then I was trying to collect some information and found this Reddit thread from Emmy Ego, who I've seen some other like amazing threads from Emmy Ego as well. So
Shout out,
I trust Emmy Ego. Yes. Shout out to you on Reddit. So I'll link it in the show notes and description box if you haven't seen this and want to read it. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's pretty long. But the theory here is that Andarna does channel magic from the sky rather than the ground. So there are some points in here for this that support it, like how when they were in the Isles, the other dragons seemed to be in pain because they were like separated from their source of magic, but Andarna was showing no signs of trouble. It did seem like, I was on my whole thing about how she's totally wielding, like while they're on the Isles, and Violet was still able to communicate with her dragons when nobody else was. There was also the line from Onyx Storm where they were working on runes, and Violet says, I'm struck with the oddest urge to try and pluck strands from the very sky and weave runes. And when...
That's when they're like flying. That's not when she's trying to actively weave.
Or not, yes, sorry. When they're flying, because then she says, I feel like there's more power out here than usual, and Taran says there's actually less. So for all the other dragons, it feels like there's no magic or there's way less, but she feels like there's more. But the one big thing for me on this theory is that the Fables of the Baron were also foreshadowing this in like book 1. There are some quotes from that say, let's see, when Violet's talking about the Fables of the Baron, she says, Dad gave this to me. Maybe it's childish, just a collection of stories that warn us against the lure of magic and even demonize dragons, but it's all I have left. And then the fables explicitly warn about wielding power from the ground instead of the skies. There was a quote that says another talks about the dangers of wielding power from the ground instead of the skies, as one could easily start drawing magic from the earth and eventually be driven mad. So all that stuff was kind of in book 1. She was just getting in there. So I don't know that this means, I don't know how this would have happened if the Irids are the only breed of dragon that are still drawing magic from the sky and all of these other dragons on the continent are drawing power from the ground. I don't necessarily think that makes them evil or that they're doing that maliciously. I don't know.
It would give more to the fact that the whole series is called the Empyrean Series and where they draw magic from and how that affects the whole entire world.
Yes.
Based on that.
And there is a line in here about that. There seems to be a metaphor with magic from underground in parentheses hell and magic from the sky in parentheses heaven. Empyrean literally means heaven, after all, is what's in here.
I heard that the Empyrean's the highest level of heaven or something like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this whole Reddit thread is more what if magic channeled by a human from the sky instead could heal? If it could heal a venin or cure a venin. So there's a whole kind of thread about this in here. I am totally sold on this theory. I feel there's a lot of stuff backing this up. I did have a couple of other thoughts in here about this. So in chapter 10 of Onyx Storm, in the last sentence, Theophony says, "And now tell me which dragon chose you first, the one who grants you the power of the sky or the Irid?" Which was interesting to me. I saw a theory about how maybe Taran actually was the dreamwalking signet and Andarna was lightning. I don't think that's the case. But
maybe I thought it was because she can ride Taran, but she can't ride Andarna. Taran can fly. That's how I originally took it.
Oh. Well, I thought it was referencing her lightning. But in the Venin's language is always such untapped power. You could, wield the power of the sky, or you could command the skies if you wanted, but you have nothing, you have no idea what to do with it, do you? But I was just thinking about Taran giving her that power, gifting her with the signet or whatever to wield pure power, and how that maybe could have played into we always talk about what the rider would have needed in that moment to manifest that signet. But I was also thinking about on Taran's side that maybe in his desperation after losing Naolin to dirt divination, as Kyle likes to call it, the combination of his desire not to lose another rider to earth magic and Violet's upbringing with her, mind of a scribe, heart of a writer, and all of that would make her a trustworthy candidate for wielding pure power. And he granted her the power of the sky, even if he doesn't know how to channel from the sky himself. I just think all of that is really interesting. And Taran always says I chose you for your intelligence and your courage. And he's always very confident in his choice of Violet. But then she has this I don't know, her signet to wield pure power. Anyway, my mind is super scrambled on all of this, but that's kind of the gist of where I'm at.
I totally agree that I don't know if it's Andarna, I guess, drawing from the sky, or somehow that Violet has access to that. One thing that I found was really interesting was you had mentioned whenever she's flying to go get the citrine jewel, that she had that weird urge to weave runes from the sky. But then later, when they're on the Isle Kingdoms, Mira hands out all those little runed discs to everyone to see if they would work. And she specifically hands Violet the one that's protects her from the sun for it's basically sunscreen. And she says it's identical to the one that's been on her dagger from Xaden. So this whole entire time, Violet has had a rune that protects her from the sun. So the theory here is, can she actually channel from the sky or be able to do that more regularly? But these runes have been dampering that. And then later the disc that she has, is that dampering her connection to the sky? Somehow, because you said, the Venin does say you could command the sky to surrender all its power.
Yeah.
But, doesn't know how to do that or whatever.
That is super interesting, but I'm also still confused as to why, if that does protect her from the sun, but her nose is pink, is she sunburnt?
I mean, maybe it's protecting her and it's not working right on her or something. I don't know.
Low SPF.
I don't know.
I did see one more that was not so much about magic from the sky, but that instead of wielding lightning, it was the power of the sun specifically. And that's why when she Oh, yeah. Okay. So yeah, talk about that.
Well, because on each cover of the book, Rebecca has said those are runes.
Yeah.
That this is a rune. And like in the back of each book, this is a sun that's like a little sunburst. And then on the sides, these are suns like in this rune. And they're like part of it or whatever. And so maybe she actually has power of the sun. It would also explain why like the Venin are always after her, because she's like this untapped pure power, unending power thing. And then also like that would be commanding the sky, because the sun kind of decides if it's day or night or whatever, all the things. But also then like I just feel like even now, while Andarna is like full irid and changing all her colors and stuff, like Taran still calls her the golden one. And I'm like, maybe he's like the golden sun. It all is coming together. So I'm convinced that it's like the sun. Maybe.
Yeah, part of the support for that too was, I think in Iron Flame, when Violet is pushed to like burnout, it describes her skin as being like burnt, like her skin was sunburnt, like she's super red. And I think they even use the term sunburn, and it's like she's like her breath is fire, like when she's
that happens a lot.
when she's like wielding too much power or something. But that could explain maybe if she has all of these runes protecting her from the sun, and that's actually what her pure power is or something. I could maybe see that.
Yeah, it's like unintentionally stopping all her power.
I didn't really write anything for this section, but just to be on record, and it's okay if I'm wrong, Andarna channels from the sky. No, she doesn't. That's my opinion. I think, like every other dragon, she gets her magic coming from the Veil and the Wordstones, and dragons don't pull magic from anywhere but themselves, and writers pull magic from them.
I mean, I only spent all day studying it, but yeah, I'm sure. Just kidding.
Well,
I will, okay if I'm wrong. I'm okay.
They do say that like when a bunch of dragons hatch at the same time, it like really amplifies the magic that's in the Veil. Like that's the, a huge source of magic in the earth comes from wherever the dragons are. So that makes sense to me as well. I love this theory too.
Okay, so my next theory, one that I had seen while I was doing all this other research, and it said that Violet is a conduit with her raw power and is able to charge others' signets when they are near her. And we can see this a couple times, like when Ree grabs something through the wall for the very first time and is like, that's the first time I've ever been able to do it or whatever, or like with the bone spur, and then that was like her biggest thing. When Mira in Iron Flame is able to like create a ward around her and Violet and Brennan from the venom that's there outside of the actual wards, and she does it for the very first time. No one's ever been able to do that before. Stuff like that. She's also a literal walking generator for alloy, like the alloy stuff, like as she's imbuing them with her lightning, as she's doing it in her conduit. So I guess maybe part of the theory here too is that she could potentially like even heal the ground that the venom have drained, because she's able to like imbue actual power back into things, more than just like the alloy, but like into her friends and other things around her and stuff. So.
I feel like I'm all for her being like a source of power and like healing the ground, imbuing whatever. I don't think that caused Ree or Mira to be any better than what they were, because Ree practices really hard, and she even said that she's been practicing, and Mira practices, and like, what, you're only gonna let one woman in the book be a strong woman without help? They can do it on their own.
So valid, Kyle.
So true.
Here for that.
Well, yeah, like imbuing and then like healing the ground, I could totally see, because like, yeah, she's raw power. It'd be dangerously close to a third signet, I would say, to be able to do all that, but who
maybe
knows?
that is the signet, and we just don't know.
Yeah.
She's just
that's
choosing
true.
to form it in lightning.
Yeah.
And
That
it
is
ends
true.
up being whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say I saw this a lot before Onyx Storm, because there were a lot of people theorizing that her second signet was like being an amplifier. That's what they were calling it. I don't know if that's a thing in the book, but I saw this a lot for that reason. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, our next theory, that Sigale is the price Xaden will have to pay for getting his soul back.
I honestly just don't buy that the soul is the price he paid in the first place. Like, maybe in a colloquial sense, but not for real. Like, not until I have more proof of gods and any sort of afterlife in this world. But I feel like maybe he sacrificed a bit of his humanity, I would say. But I've not seen much other about souls in this world.
Yeah.
I just disagree, because as much as like dragons are totally BA and are in Fourth Wing so scary to Violet as like a new like introduction to dragons, we've seen them be pretty expendable Like when when Jack just kills his dragon, when Berwyn just kills one and like desiccates it and stuff. Like it just kind of feels like that wouldn't be big enough a price for his entire soul, if that's like the balance there.
Yeah, I could see that.
As much as I love Sigale, and she's totally worth it.
I know.
But like,
Sigale, if you're listening. So our next theory is that Andarna's venom tail is the cure for Venin. She has that like scorpion tail, and her venom was mentioned once earlier in the series.
Yeah, I kind of like it. Especially since she, is magic, so maybe she can even alter the venom or something somehow that she has.
Yeah.
Hey,
I do love the idea of her venom being used in like an antidote by our Smarty Pants Poison Master Violet. However, I'm still kind of stuck on this. Like, I don't think it would be that simple. I don't think the answer by itself would be like the answer to turning Venin is going to be as simple as one antidote or one signet on its own, if that makes sense. I don't know.
I guess I miss the fact that her tail is actually venom. Like, because she chose her tail. Like, that has totally just blown me away here or whatever. I thought she just like chose to shape it like a scorpion tail, just like you can shape it like a sword tail or whatever else, or a dagger tail for those less, just kidding.
I will say too, like scorpion tail, all the other dragons are based off of weapons, and a scorpion tail is an actual weapon, so it may not be like an animal scorpion tail.
Yeah,
because a scorpion tail weapon is like it's like a spiked ball on a long chain it's almost like a meteor hammer that you thrust forward and it just flies out and hits things. Could be an actual animal scorpion tail, but the fact that no other dragons have like, other animal based tails kind of makes me a little bit suspicious.
I also am not convinced that like if she does have them to answer this question, I do not think there is a cure to being a Venin. Because we have been told that 40,000 times by every single person, like from a dragon, from an Irid, from an actual Venin itself, from other humans. Like, it's going to end up being something else. Like, it could be love, or it could be a god, or it could be, I don't know, like...
Power of friendship.
Yeah, exactly. Worked in My Little Pony. Why can't it work here? So.
To be fair, the Venin saying that there's not a cure was more of like a why would we even want a cure sort of thing. But yes, there are other sources that are saying like, there's never been a cure. Yeah. But the
like
Venin
to answer
was more
this
of like
question,
a
it's not going to be used in an antidote because there isn't one.
Yeah.
Okay, so this actually, the quote that I was thinking of that I had seen referenced, I think is actually about Bade's tale. Because it was like the fight with Bade in the caves in Iron Flame. And it says, I drop my gaze as her poison barbed tail comes within a foot of me. And then she's gone. But I think she's talking about Bade here, not Andarna. So maybe it was maybe the quote was from somewhere else.
On Google, it says venomous barbs are known to be contained in scorpion tails, but I think it might just be talking about
in general
scorpion tails.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then it has the theory. Theories suggest Andarna's venom may play a key role in creating a cure or an antidote. Wow. Crazy. We should put that in this episode.
Also, if she had venom, I feel like she'd brag about it, to be honest.
Probably.
Like, my venom's the best. My venom's the best venom.
I think you're confusing her and Princess Donut.
That's fair.
There's a couple of times today I was like, oh, you're just thinking she's Princess Donut. Which is a talking cat in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Okay, so our next thing is thoughts on Aric, our fearless prince and writer in general, his signet, etc. What do we got?
Who wrote that prompt?
Connor?
My only note in here was 2 gifts from New Girl. The first one was where Jess is going, Mother, may I? And then the second one is her going, so hot, right? And she holds out her hand for a high five and nobody moves.
I would if I was not 600 miles from you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Nice.
You could walk 500 miles.
But not
I
600.
would walk 500 miles.
Not 600.
Just to fall down at your door? Do you guys think Aric has a second signet?
Part of me would be surprised because the precognition is such a huge deal. Part of me wouldn't because Homeboy has even more secrets than Xaden, but I don't know. I don't think he does. I don't know.
I said it'd be cool, but if that happened, then I just expect everyone to get one eventually at that point. And I put a little gif of Oprah going, "You get a second signet. You get a second signet."
The fact that existed out there for you to find it, or did you make that?
Did you make
No,
it?
I made it. I was like, I can't find one good enough, so I
That's
just made it
10 out
myself.
of 10.
Amazing.
We'll drop that one in Discord. I agree that no, he doesn't get a second signet only because it feels like everybody else does. And so it would just be like,
Yeah, I would vote no on this.
Maybe he'll get post-cog, so he gets both sides.
that's an anxiety person's nightmare.
Post-cog.
Post-cog is just knowing what happened after it happened, though. What do you mean that's an anxiety nightmare?
Because I already rethink everything I do and all of my past, you know,
don't
instead
need
you just
more
reliving
insight.
it.
He would know what would have been the perfect thing to do. He's
Exactly.
like,
Totally should have said that.
All right, next one up. Do you think Aric is a descendant of the Rider King, and maybe Mulvick was bonded to him too? I just wrote, this is a very deep thought for me. I don't really have anything to add here, so terribly sorry. Don't remember any of these details.
I love that you didn't have anything to add, but added the most out of anyone.
That's funny.
Yeah, this is one I didn't have time to look up. I have vague memories of this. My first train of thought, I think we talked about a little bit last week, was that maybe Mulvick was previously bonded to one of our ascendants, like on his mom's side. If they were riders, it wouldn't necessarily have to be like the line of, what's it called?
Tari. I think it's a cool idea. I just don't know anything about it. And I would want to I don't know. I was hoping somebody else had research to back it up because I've never really thought of it.
Emmy Ego, if you're listening,
Yeah.
write us a Reddit thread.
The only thing I thought of literally just now is, I guess, I don't know if it's just this king that doesn't allow royals to be riders or that's like a tradition or whatever. But given how long ago that was, however many royal families there have been, and how in the family they kept the royal line, there's plenty of opportunities for his ancestors to have been riders. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the Rider King.
Yeah.
But surely there was those who came before him that were also riders. So
Yeah.
plenty of dragons that could have been bonded to them.
Yeah. True. Do we think that Aric will make it to the end? Personally, I will riot if he does not. I feel like he has got to be incredibly hard to kill with precognition. However, I did see a video about this from our friend Bethany at let me find her screen name so I don't mess it up. It was just a quote from Onyx Storm, but it was one that I had not thought about at all, even on the reread. Okay, so this was from Bethany at the Outland Ridge on Instagram. It was this line from Onyx Storm, just hitting completely different on a reread. So this is where Aric says, "My brother will be king, though a horrible one. Heirs and alliances aren't my concern. I will fight in this war, most likely die, and do so knowing that I protected others."
So when did the quote happen?
So this is in chapter 35 of Onyx Storm. I believe they're having dinner with the triumvirate here.
So I have this in my our next question about Aric at the very bottom. But I saw an interview in all my research for this episode that Rebecca said when he was on the Isles, he was not fully manifested, or he had just started trying to figure out what the heck was happening. So it wasn't he actually knew. He was just having little tiny things and moments, like when Garrick fell because the cake and Aric caught his head, those types of things that you see little moments that, but anything before that would not have been precog. So maybe he would have had a full on vision, but would he have trusted it in that moment to know that that was the signet or something? And is Rebecca lying to us?
Probably.
That's always included.
They always say that the signet that you get is what you need. So maybe him saying that, the universe was like, oh, you need to know what happens since you're guessing at it. But I, for does he make it to the end, just said, nah. I feel like it's going to be one of those situations where he's self-sacrificing, this was the only way sort of thing. And then... Yeah.
I hard disagree. He's the next king. He has plot armor. He
What
will be here to the end.
What is a king to
He's
a
gonna
kingdom
save
that may
us.
not exist? The kingdom could fall.
Well, we know Basgaiath is still going to be there, so
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
I do totally see that happening with the whole reluctant king trope where he lives his whole life thinking that his brother's going to take the throne, and then it ends up being him for some reason.
I could also see maybe, like, if he's doing that, like, oh, this is the only way, I have to sacrifice myself. And then, like, someone else takes his place, and he's like, whoa, didn't see that one coming, even with my precog. Like,
and it's Halden.
Yeah, what if he gets a redemption arc? He's like, no, you're the better brother. And then he dies, and Aric's like, yeah, you right.
Yeah.
Well,
That
because we
checks out.
kind of see, like, the reluctant leader thing kind of with Xaden and Bodhi a little bit. With Bodhi not wanting to be that, even though Xaden was, like, trying to give it to him or whatever. So
Yeah.
maybe that's
Except he may have actually just pieced out. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, maybe we've already seen that trope sort of play out, and it's not going to happen again.
True.
He's going to sacrifice himself.
No.
That's all I can think of.
Ron, no.
There has to be another way. And he's like, no, there's literally not.
I can see the future.
He's like,
Why are we
being
talking in
stabbed.
these weird
Trust me,
accents?
guys.
Okay, the next one says, can Aric actually speak different languages, or is he just precog? Like, does he just precog what he's supposed to say? And that's why he didn't say he could help them out earlier in the series. Like in Onyx Storm chapter 35, he says, like, the Hidodic saying with them at dinner, or some of these other random things. Like, maybe he just sees it beforehand,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
This falls into my love of, like, time-based things, love-hate relationship. So if he were to precog what he was supposed to say, that would mean the future version of him knew what to say. So if he doesn't understand the language now, then he wouldn't know it 5 seconds from now and would not be able to precog that information from his future either. But there are a couple of workarounds. The first one being unlimited precognition. If he saw so far into the future that he knows everything that ever is going to happen, at least to him, and then just thinks to himself, I don't know this language, but when I have time, I'm going to study it. Then as soon as he promises to do that, he would know the language, because in the future, he knows the language. The other workaround would be the Groundhog Day situation where he spends years looping the same conversation until he understands roughly enough to get by.
That feels excessive.
I really appreciate you fleshing out all of these options, Kyle. I love it.
I mean, it pretty
I'm not on board
straightforward
with this, though.
answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think, like, maybe that Hidodic saying, like, the little one-liner, he would have known, oh, we're saying it right now at this exact moment. And so he, says the line or something. But I don't know that it would be all the languages.
Yeah, I
everything
assumed he
he
just
needs.
knew them all because he grew up in, like, the royal household and
Yeah.
probably had all the private tutors and stuff and cared enough to learn them all. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not fluent, but like he knew enough of each one. At least the sayings, the common sayings.
Yeah.
And the swear words.
Almost likely die.
Our next one just says, Xaden says Lynx is magic's balance for him. Do we think Xaden will end up dying? I had the first answer, which I just said, someday perhaps. A man can dream. Just kidding, don't hurt me.
Horrible.
I just wrote Lynx is more likely to die at this point, and we'll
Yeah.
probably never see him in the books anyway. I'm shaking my head because it's like this is my whole thing about him getting the shadow wielding. It was like this random dude. It's like magic's doing the balance, and like another shadow wielder, and we're never gonna see him.
Yeah. Didn't he almost get killed by a door opening until Aric saved him?
His Arc precogged a door.
Wasn't
Yeah,
the
he
one
almost
that
got
was
hit by
almost
a
walking
door.
through the door?
Yeah, Llewellyn,
It's like good luck
like,
with those
threw
shadows,
Halden
buddy.
out.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Gonna be suffering through it with Carr forever, trying to
I do
figure all that out.
think, I think it could be a couple things. First of all, that Rebecca is just, like, trying to emphasize how lost Xaden really is in that moment, because, like, in the beginning of, or whenever that happens in Onyx Storm, that you're still holding out hope. Like, Violet for sure is, and it just, like, helps solidify for Violet, like, no, he's, like, actually full on Venin and is gone, kind of a thing. For me, I feel like it supports the theory that the first years, like the right now first years, are going to be the mirror to the original 6, not Violet's generation or, like, Violet's class, and that, like, they're all going to have those powers or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I feel like I also love to see Lynx Dragon's response to, like, him learning how to wield shadows, and his dragon just be like, ooh, okay, that's great. And, like, he, like, looks over at Sigale, and Sigale's like, you tell anyone, I'll kill you.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, he's
Because,
like,
I mean,
"Wait
they
a
have to realize
minute."
what that means. Yeah, like, yeah, wait a
Right,
minute.
yeah.
Interesting. Well, I mean, there's multiple people who have like ice wielding and multiple people who have some of these other powers. So it's
Yeah,
just
they
a
just
rare one to
emphasize
double.
Yeah.
That there's only supposed to be one of those or whatever.
I don't
Per
think it's
generation.
supposed to. It just has
It has been so far.
been, I guess, like that. Anyways, okay, this next one is a big one. So let's have a Clinky's jaw tick moment.
Everybody tick your jaw.
How do you do that?
John, that looked pretty effortless for you.
Mine's not chiseled enough.
My beard hides a lot of my ticks, to be honest. Like, you don't really see the musculature beneath that.
Okay, this is the big one. Is Riddick a Venin?
Nah.
I wrote, Lauren, the floor is yours. Let's fight.
Okay. So originally, like after the reread and everything and some of the random videos I had seen online, I was like 100% yes. After doing a little more research here, I maybe, I don't know. I'm still leaning towards yes just because that's where I was so like confidently. But I guess my big thing here is that Jack in Onyx Storm chapter 12 says, ask me when I turned, how I turned, ask me why only initiates bleed. So saying that like sages and maven and such do not bleed. We do see Varish bleed when he gets stabbed, which I had originally thought maybe Varish was a Venin, so maybe he's not because he was bleeding or something in there.
Could have been
but we do see Riddick stabbed, quote, quote, and he doesn't believe.
I don't believe it.
He doesn't, because instead it conveniently was in his clothes, or so they say, whenever they're in the kitchen, because he was like, I don't like sewing, or whatever he says. So I thought it had happened twice, but when I went to look up the quotes to have my receipts, this is my update for this. In chapter 43 of Iron Flame, this is when they're trying to cross the Madero Pass with the riders and stuff. And Violet says, but all I see is Riddick staggering backward toward the wall, 2 arrows piercing the side of his abdomen. I'm all right. He nods quickly, glancing down at the arrows, blood trickling from his mouth. So he was bleeding in that moment, not from his wound, but from his mouth, I guess. And then the one that I have is from Onyx Storm chapter 36, like the very end of 36, 37, where Violet says, air gushes from my lungs as Riddick looks down. The cook's knife is lodged in his side. And in chapter 37, Riddick says, that's unfortunate, staring down at the knife that protrudes from his side. Violet lunges across him to grab his hand. He's already yanked the blade free. Violet slams her palms over his side to stanch the flow of blood, but there isn't any. No hole in his shirt either. Just 2 slices through his flight jacket and a cut in the counter. The blade caught the edge of his flight jacket, not him. So there's a lot of theories that it did cut him and that he's not bleeding in this moment and that he's actually Venin and he was able to like hide it in that moment from looking like it was part of him, or however, maybe it had been healed quickly or something. So I don't know. I have more
like
things,
if
but
that
what
were
are our
true-
reactions about this?
Yeah, I feel like if that were true, there would have been a hole in his shirt, but it specifically says there's no hole in his shirt. It went like through the edge of his jacket. I don't know. I'm not behind this one at all, but
I mean, for the first one too, he is bleeding from the wound in his side. It's just coming out of his mouth. You said that he wasn't bleeding from the wound, but it's the arrows that are causing that. What else would it be? Perfectly healthy guy gets shot by 2 arrows and doesn't bleed but coughs up blood?
I'm aware that it's from... I'm not an idiot, Kyle.
No,
I'm just saying it's not coming from his side.
Okay, I thought you were saying that was like a reason that he
wasn't.
wasn't Venin. Was like, oh, he's not bleeding from the arrows, so I thought that's what you were saying.
No.
I think people just
Doesn't make any
misquoted it.
sense. Yeah, I could see that too. Like in some of the stuff that I had seen. Or, you know, you see so many videos of people just trying to get views. And so they put like half a sentence and there's no context, whatever. And then you fully believe it. Like theorists about Onyx Storm, which is also like, you know, the whole point of this book series. Anyways. Okay. So I also saw that Riddick's, like a theory about Riddick's gift from the Zenal like island or whatever, and that he has a kiss on each cheek, which some are saying is like Judas from the Bible, meaning that he is going to betray someone, or that luck is going to betray him.
Interesting.
Judas, no.
Judas.
I saw it more as like a kiss of death, like mafia style. But I guess the Judas thing makes sense too.
I mean, it could. I like the idea of that luck is going to betray him, and I don't like the idea that something bad is going to happen. But, like,
take it easy.
Instead of Riddick being the like evil, that something's gonna like I don't know. Yeah. And then the final theory on this is that I saw, and this is not my own personal theory, but Riddick is just a super old Venin sent to Basgiath when Violet went in so that he could like watch her or something, or that he's even Berwyn's son, that like Panchek's like, I'm the only connection to your son or whatever, and he's evolved like offspring are said to do, like that Venin offspring are supposed to evolve or something.
I feel like he wouldn't be that funny.
Maybe he would be. He'd be just like, whatever.
He gets it from his mom.
Lived 100 lives.
Yeah, overall, my heart cannot get on board with this one for Riddick specifically. I don't want him to be Venin. I think if Quinn could effectively shapeshift into someone else with like her astral projection signet, and then we also know that a Maven could walk among everyone at Basgiath undetected. I don't think it's like super far-fetched that one of the super old powerful Venin could maybe do this disguised as like someone younger or a different person specifically, and like do some sleuthing that way. But I don't know. I don't like to think that it's Riddick. I don't.
I feel like if they were going to do that though, it would be who is like the best. Like you have to excel at all the classes, work your way up the ranks or whatever. They wouldn't want a Venin who's just like, stay in the middle. Don't like accomplish anything too great. Just joke around, have fun. Because they'd want to get into like the upper echelon and start affecting things.
I feel like this specifically is to like watch Violet was the quote, because like Panchek or somebody else is already up there doing who knows what. But like in this case, if it really is this situation, Riddick is playing it off like, oh, don't look at me, I'm just some goofball idiot. And then we see how like actually powerful he is, or like these actual moments of epicness in this book. Like I could see that being if he's being evil, a strategy. And all of this, I think, as much as I say I believe these things, I love Riddick more than probably any other character in this whole entire series. And I think I'm just trying to protect my heart because I know something's probably going to happen to poor little Riddick. And if I just like tell myself that he's already like all these things, then it won't hurt me as bad. I'm trying to guard my heart from Rebecca.
Well, I do have another theory about Riddick that I saw and I thought was super fun, but it's not about him being evil. It's about him being bonded to a second dragon.
What?
Which sounds crazy, but I actually kind of love this. The only reason, so I'll link the Reddit for this too. The only reason I don't think it could be true is because he's so adamant about like Violet not keeping secrets. Like the squad shouldn't have any secrets. So I feel like if he did have a second dragon,
like if he's Venin and he's like, oh, don't keep secrets from me, so he could get all the information.
Sure.
Sorry.
I mean, if he were trying to manipulate her that way, I'm sure he would say that. But this is primarily because of the scene in Iron Flame where Violet like notices. I think this was after they went to Shantara. Is that what it's called? The little town. I think this is like after they got to go to the little town for the first time. This is Iron Flame chapter 8. Violet notices something like when his collar shifts, and she says, did you get a tattoo? And he smiles and pulls at his collar, showing off the inked tip of a sword tail on the warm brown skin of his neck, ending near the base of his collar. And all he says is, it wraps to my shoulder to Atram's relic. Badass, right? He doesn't actually say that it is a tattoo. And it's weird that it's like that he would get a tattoo of a sword tail dragon. Yeah, that's separate from the relic he already has of a brown sword tail, and it leads to that relic. So I don't know. There was another moment. I think it was I can't remember if it was at Iron Flame or Onyx Storm, but there was a moment where Violet thinks that she sees Atram. Like she thought that she saw a wing and thought it was like Atram because it was a brown wing or something. And she asks Riddick, "Is that Atram?" And he's like, "No, Atram's up there with whoever else." Like it didn't faze him that she saw something. And then later in that chapter, there are Wyvern, but this dragon would have been like flying in the opposite direction that the Wyvern were coming from, something like that. There was just like, there have been a couple of moments. And then this theory this by the way was written by What the Frenchie Does on Reddit, but this doesn't include anything from Onyx Storm. So the only thing I included was that there was in chapter 1 of Onyx Storm when Riddick and Atrum are arguing, and Atrum had like blocked everybody else out. And Violet asks what they were arguing about, and he's like, sorry about that. And he cringes and lowers his voice and says that Atrum wants to go home back to Eratia, says we can launch the search for the 7th breed from there. And that's like all of the follow-up that we get. So this could have been like a proximity issue maybe with the other bonded dragon. And that's why Atrum blocked out all the other dragons or riders for that fight. I don't know if it would make sense for Atrum to have mated with another dragon. And maybe that's why Riddick got a tattoo of the other dragon or something. I could see him being a bro and doing that. But if that's the case, I feel like that dragon would have had to accompany them to the Isles. So I don't know.
I thought the only way that Violet had it was because Andarna is an Irid and manipulated the magic. Like that it's always one human to one dragon, and the Irid is what changed that. So is the theory that this other dragon is an Irid? Because if it's not, then it would be true.
It would be another brown swordtail. But he like pulled a bunch of quotes in this Reddit thread about like all the kind of foreshadowing that was happening in book 1 about, it's only possible because it's never like they say it's only possible for that to happen because it's never happened before that 2 dragons have chosen to bond the same rider or whatever that means. But I could maybe see it as like Atrum maybe is mated to another dragon, but I don't think that would be a secret. So I don't know. The thread was really fun to read. If you want to read it, I'll link it in the show notes too. But I thought that was cute. I don't really have no idea why he would get a tattoo of his dragon that he already has a relic from the dragon. But maybe that's just a dumb Riddick
I just thought it was just being Riddick, and he could just be being sneaky. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not supposed to trust anybody, and everybody's probably just gonna die, and I just don't know.
Probably.
I just don't know.
What if you're right and he is Venin and he was sent there to watch Violet, but now he's at the point with like these epic speeches they've been giving them about like, trust me, I can do a lot, and like whatever. He's just like been won over by these people.
That he just loves them.
Yeah, he's just like, this is the better life.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I hope so. I hope he's a good guy. Like in the end of the day.
Well, and the thing is, too, can Venin bond a dragon? Because if not, then...
We see them being, like, Xaden is currently bonded with one. Jack was bonded with one. But they were already bonded.
Yeah.
Before they turned.
Yeah.
So.
Would a dragon choose to bond a Venin? I think would be the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Atrum, because he's full of jokes. He'd just be like, hi, Empyrean. Check this out. Also, Atrum is, like, super young. He's like 22 or something like that. Like he's a young dragon. So yeah, he's just a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, well, since we were just talking about like Venin not being able to bleed, but at the end, Theophony does bleed when she gets stabbed by the Dune dagger, the Dune blade. I don't know. But what I had researched this, and it said that basically like this Dune blade unmade her veninousness, like Dune itself, like the god unmade her venin, because it said like Violet asked like, does it hurt to be separated from the thing you were like once dedicated to or something? And Theophony says like it would sever the very thing that's kept me untouchable all these years, like if she goes back. And so like now this part of the temple has gone back to her and severed the thing that has kept her untouchable all these years, as in being a Venin. And so this like unmaking of her turned her into a normal human and caused her to bleed. I don't know if this is true. This is just what I kind of researched. To me, like Theophony was like super surprised that she was bleeding. And then like her being desiccated kind of gives like Mother Gothel to me, where like where she lost the flower and then she like de-aged and like withered away to dust. And that's kind of how I pictured Theophony's end there. Yep. Like like her age finally caught up with her or whatever. So if this is true and a god can like unmake a Venin, like that could be the answer to like Venin or whatever. Like there's not an antidote, like a god would have to intervene to do this like unmaking of a Venin or like this healing or whatever.
Which I guess would be why they would largely depend on the next generation rather than a god intervening and like healing every single Venin or something.
And like for Xaden or anyone who's just recently turned, they would be fine because like if they stopped aging, it would just catch up to them a little bit. But like for these ones that have been around for centuries and centuries, it would be like Theophony where they just like Mother Gothel. They're going to get mother gothled. So, I don't know if any of that's true. That's just some of the stuff I had read online as an answer to potentially why she bled in that moment.
All right. I had never thought about that. Another question that was submitted is, do we think Imagin may be a silver-haired girly too? Why else is her hair pink?
I thought they couldn't dye true silver hair, right?
Now, this guy read the book.
Yeah, because I think Violet has tried to dye her hair. And
I thought it was...
And it's always shown.
Yeah, I thought it was just that no matter how short she cut her hair, it always turned silver at the edges. I don't know if they...
mentioned trying to dye.
I would think she would dye her hair for how much people have like identified her by that for her whole life. I feel like
or
she
maybe
would have tried.
Yeah, or maybe it was that if she did dye her hair, she would have had to do it like so frequently. I don't know. We can look it up if you'd like. But personally, I think she just likes having pink hair. I'm not really sold on this theory because she's not the only character with dyed hair. Like Heaton also dyes their hair a lot too, and it's always really bright, funky colors. Rebecca Yarros has bright, funky colors in her hair, so I don't know if that was just like, you know, her way of including that in the world. I think if Imagin were trying to hide silver hair and it was possible to dye it, she would dye it a more common natural color in private and like wipe people's memories if they saw her dyeing her hair. I feel like she would want to make that more discreet rather than just being like, I like pink. You know? I don't know.
Plus, isn't like half of her head cut really
Shaved.
short?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like if your hair grows silver, you would keep a longer cut to dye rather than have like these constant little silver
That's
hairs
true.
coming out.
Or she's just shaving off the silver part, so it can't.
Oh my gosh. You're right.
But then it would turn silver again.
Shave every day.
She's just shaving every morning. Yeah, I don't know. I had seen this theory as well. I had also seen that Imogen's description is that she has green eyes, and the only other people apparently in the books that have green eyes is the Towery family. And so they're saying that maybe she's also blonde, and so like this blonde-haired green eyes thing, like she's part of some sort of royal bloodline, and that maybe Imagin will end up being queen instead of Aric or instead of Halden, and like that will be the new person coming in and stuff. And so she's like dyeing her hair to hide this fact that she's blonde-haired, green eyes. I don't know. I feel like that's also a stretch,
fun.
But it would be kind of neat. I'd be all about Queen Imagin. So
Yeah. Go off, queen.
go off, Queen. But I kind of feel like something's up with her hair only because it gets mentioned so many times.
Yeah.
Like-
I could definitely see her having some like big secrets like that. Some kind of big reveal later.
Well, she's clearly like, I feel like she's wiping people's memories and keeping secrets for everybody else. So I feel like she's got to be doing it for herself too. I don't know.
So besides Violet and Xaden, which couple do you ship the most or want to see more of? I had written that I hope Broccoli gets laid.
Kyle, stop.
Broccoli babies.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Maybe it'll be like a Shrek situation, like half donkey, half dragon, but it's like half cat, half dragon.
Oh my gosh. I was just imagining it with
Wow.
another cat, but sure.
What
A
other
whole little
cat?
vegetable garden.
Aim high.
I just want to see more of Sawyer and Jesinia. They're so cute in Iron Flame, and I feel like they're not in Onyx Storm at all. And I would love for that to come back. I love them. But maybe
Yeah, where
Sawyer's
they
just
at?
been taking all this time in Onyx Storm to like super learn sign language, and then in whatever the next book is, he'll be like, they're just full on doing the thing with each other.
Yes.
I mean, doing the
Oh,
thing
hey.
with each other.
He's getting good with his hands.
Exactly what I meant. That's exactly what I meant.
I initially put Imagin and Garrick, maybe, but I totally forgot about Sawyer and Jesinia. I want to amend my answer to them.
They're so cute.
I still feel weird about Sawyer, but I don't know if it's because I think he's going to die or I don't know what it is. I feel like I don't know. But my answer for this is that I'm here for Dane and Sloane. I feel like they'll have the biggest character development separately and together, as well as lots of cool signet development and this whole enemies to lovers vibe that's been happening. I'm here for that.
See, I feel weird about Sawyer. Or excuse me, I feel weird about Sloane.
Yeah, me too.
I feel weird about Sloane just because like Liam was our buddy and he was like, take care of my little sister. And now all of a sudden this little girl is coming and she's with Dane. And it's just like, it just
Dane's
feels
like, yeah, I'll take care of her.
gross. But see, that's why I don't know that I like it.
Yeah.
It's just,
Violet was Mira's little sister, and Xaden Ryerson came in to take care of her first year.
yeah, he did.
That was only like a year ago.
Actually, if you remember, she came crawling to him is how it
It does make me feel weird about Sloane a little bit. Like initially, I don't know.
Yeah. Connor is correct. There is like a lot of that. Like some of the main relationships are like upper and lower classmen. There's very rarely.
Well, because even that's what Brennan and Naolin would have been.
Mm-hmm.
A first and a third.
And that's what Riddick's always doing. He's just like, whatever year I can get.
Ribbit, am I right?
Ribbit. This is also hilarious to me because Jon is 6 years older than me, and I was 21 when we met. So,
Jon.
I guess that's why I don't think it's weird.
Kyle's 4 years older than me, so I think I was 20 when we met.
You met in college, yeah. Speaking of characters you'd like to see more of, if you could pick a novella to get about any of the characters, who would you choose? This was submitted with a note that said, need a novella of whatever is going on between Avalon, Kai, and Baylor.
That's a great point.
I want Taran in the years between, like right after Naolin, up to Violet. Like, what was that guy up to?
Interesting.
What was that guy up to?
This guy.
I would like a day in the life of King Takaris. Just what, Takaris is a unique individual. And now he's king and can do whatever the heck he wants. So just feel like that'd be entertaining.
11 a.m., the usual morning wake up.
Exactly.
I feel like he'd sleep in for sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
Please write that, Kyle. I would love to see that. I didn't write down an answer for this, but now that we're talking about all this crazy theory stuff, I think I would love a novella on General Daramore for information. If it was a novella for fun, honestly, I kind of would love a little novella on this little trio too.
Yeah, just to know what's happening. Like a little spicy side story. I'm here for it.
Jon?
No thoughts here.
Just like, I got plenty of information.
Too much information.
Too much. All right. Rebecca has stated that, quote, someone you love won't make it through the next book, end quote. Who do you think it will be?
I don't know if Lauren will even make it to the next book, much less through it. So
that's so valid.
But she's gonna die waiting or die reading it when it comes out.
From tears.
Yeah. In all
happiness
seriousness.
or sorrow, who knows?
A little bit of both, maybe. ¿Por qué no las dos? In all seriousness, I think Bodhi, Rhiannon, and Mira, good contenders. Maybe Sloane or Dane, or maybe both. I feel like all those people have good reasons to die.
Yeah.
Ouch. Don't we all?
Oh, let me
Connor, are
see.
you okay? Connor, are you okay? Asking for the people.
Find a trusted friend.
I'm a mandated reporter.
You're not clocked in.
I wrote here possibly Andarna, since we know that Violet can survive without her. That one would obviously hurt a lot. Otherwise, I'd maybe say Rhea or Imagin.
I agree with the dragon thing, but I think it would be Taran because she just needs one dragon is all we know. So I feel like Andarna's more the answer to whatever's happening because she's this rare seventh breed or whatever, and that unfortunately makes Taran feel more expendable, which is horrible to say, but if we have to, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I also kind of agree that it might be Rhea, as much as that would be the literal worst, and then I feel like it set up Riddick for how much everyone in the world loves him. So something's going on with Riddick. I feel like I just keep bringing him up in such a negative way. I love him.
Lauren!
I'm sorry, I didn't write the book.
You're turning into Kyle.
I'm turning into Kyle. I'm sorry, that just really registered. Dang it. Riddick is my Aelin.
Oh my gosh. He'll not. The next one is, do you think Taran will make it to the end of the series? To which I said, of course. He's only about 20 minutes out.
Always.
Oh my gosh. I was really worried for Taran going into book 3. There were a lot of theories that Taran was going to die, but then he had like that near miss kind of in chapter 10, which was so early in the book that then I felt like, well, maybe he's safe again, but now I feel like he could be a really high impact death in book 5. I would be really surprised if it happened any earlier than that. I feel like that would be a really big death at the end of the series. I also don't want that to happen, but I could see that happening.
Could be like the end of book 4. She sees a dead dragon, but you don't know which one till the 5th book comes out. You just gotta wonder.
No, Rebecca would really draw it out. It would be like 75% into book 5. I'm calling
You
it.
mean like over years of us waiting between book 4 and 5? That's a real way to draw it out there,
That would
Con.
be a long, emotional, on-page death. She would really squeeze every last drop of emotional torture out of that, I think. That's my... If it does happen, it will be in the last, like, third of the last book.
Rebecca, if you're listening, we think you're great. We really do.
We love you so
Why
much.
we read the book. For the emotional damage.
Yes.
Rebecca, I haven't met you, so I can't give you like how I feel about you as a person.
I feel like she would appreciate that.
Yeah, it's fair.
At this point, I feel like Taran kind of has to make it unless she's killing off Violet. That's kind of my thought. Unless, of course, Violet goes Venin and something happens there with Taran.
I feel like if something happens to Scale, especially if like this bond is broken, like some of the theories are, then I feel like that's Taran's freebie to leave or unfortunately to die or like something that would happen to him or something. And then like and Darna would help him through it, like Violet through it, just like Taran was able to help Violet through it and Darna leaving. So.
Well, speaking of character deaths, which quote-unquote dead characters do you think are still alive? The examples they gave were like Papa Sorrengail or Naolin, etc.
As always, golden rule. If I don't see the body, they're not dead.
The golden rule.
The golden
That's
rule.
it.
That's it.
That's what my mom raised me on, the golden rule. If you don't see a body, they're not dead. Wow.
Yeah, you really got her, Kyle. That was a lean into the microphone snort. That was amazing.
Sorry.
At this point, probably Naolin is still alive. I really don't think Asher is still alive. And I wrote here, of course, don't forget about Jack. He's still alive. He's still around.
Somehow.
The one that won't die.
Yeah.
I was convinced in book 1 that Asher was still alive, but since we got the Brennan reveal then, and then finally Asher's research, I really don't think he is alive. However, I do not think that he died of heart failure. I don't know how exactly he died. John and I actually talked about that a little bit earlier, but I definitely don't think it was like natural causes. There's no way that that happened.
Well, he even acted like he knew people were hunting him, or why would he hide all his research and all this stuff? So I agree with that part. I think there's probably some marked ones that died, but really just like flew off. We know that there's like Eratia, but like maybe they're somewhere else doing something, who knows? Or like another part of the rebellion we haven't seen yet. But I just don't think she would drop another major unalived bomb on us again. I mean, I agree about Naolin, but it feels like Naolin and Brennan is like the same little club to me. I don't think it's like Asher or some of these other like Liam or somebody else. Like I think the people we've seen died, they're dead for sure.
True. So that's the next question. If Papa Sorrengail is dead, how did he die? I wrote, who dead him? Because that's how our 4-year-old currently asks how someone was killed.
Oh,
who dead him? She says the same thing about like bugs. You gonna dead him?
I was gonna ask how often does she have to ask about how someone died?
yeah, I'm questioning you
Actually, so the first time I heard her say this was in the car on the way to church on Easter Sunday.
What?
I was
about
trying to
Jesus?
explain to her. Yes, I was trying to explain what Easter was, and I said, "And Jesus died for our sins," and she said, "Who did him?"
Who did him?
And now she says it all the time.
That is so funny.
I laughed so hard. My actual answer to this was it seemed like Asher knew that he was going to die soon when he left some of these things for Violet.
Yes.
No part of me thinks this was coincidental. However, I don't have a whole lot cooking on that yet. But then John's note led to some conversation.
What if Asher weaved his life force into his son via the rune on his hand so that he would take his place in death and would be there to protect Violet?
Meaning there
Just a
would have
thought.
been some other incident, because I think Asher died like a year after Brennan supposedly died.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah, but
that's
his
the
like
only
heart
thing.
failure started right after it.
Started right
So
after
it's like-
Brennan's death. Yeah.
Yeah,
He could have
so-
given like slowly or something.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I mean, we already
We
know
don't have to get into
Asher's
it, but-
all over different places without people knowing, like the Isles and whatever. So who's to say he wasn't with wherever Brennan was in that moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's really no, like, I went back to the beginning of Iron Flame, and there's really no conversation. I mean, there's not a lot of conversations with Brennan in general, but, like, they didn't really talk about their dad dying. They, like, talked about how Dad gave me this book, but there was no conversation about his death or Brennan not being there for it or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
I just laughed literally out loud at the word "if" for if Papa Sorrengail is dead, and I was like, Connor, you've been talking about if Papa Sorrengail's dead for literal years.
That's how it was worded.
I know, and I thought you wrote this question.
Oh, no, I didn't.
I was like, Connor, again? Thought we moved on from this. All right, jaw tick, everyone. Take a drink.
Cheers.
Everybody do a jaw tick if you're listening. Okay,
All right.
The question is to rank the following characters. You have Varish, Panchek, General Atos, Jack Barlo, or Halden. Where are we at?
I wrote like worst to worst or
I thought
less
you said
worst
worst
to
to
more
worse.
worst. I guess mine was less worse to worse. So I have Halden as the lowest worst. And then
Least worst.
and
Yeah.
then Jack, Barlo, General Atos, Varish, and Panchek. There's a fine line there. I only do Varish second to most worst because he's dead, and Panchek is still alive apparently,
Potentially, yeah.
and he was just like flying on the under the radar the entire time with his traitorism.
Traitorism. Nice. Kyle?
I think I'm going to do a quick swap of some of mine. Because I just thought of something.
That changes Connor's answer.
That does change my answer.
Uh-oh, sorry. So I went bottom to top. I'll give a brief reasoning.
you did.
Varish at the very bottom because he is taking evil commands and performing them with pleasure. Like, he's not being like, oh, this is just my duty. This is like, I'm
Oh.
taking it above and beyond.
Okay.
Duty.
Panchek just above that because he is also taking orders from evil, but he's just taking orders. You know, he's not, doesn't seem to be having fun with it.
Okay.
Atos, a little bit above that. I am at of this point unsure if he's on the good or bad side. If he's on the good side, he's just an a-hole who is
Yeah.
on the good side. Barlo, also just an a-hole, but a little less of an issue because he's not really done much. And Halden, just an idiot. So
That's fair.
Yeah. I think the worst for me is General Atos because if he's Venin, then he's like a sneaky, horrible person, Venin.
if it's
And
Venom,
he's
then yeah.
And if he's human, then he's a horrible human being to his son, to
Yeah.
the literal entire continent, to the college, to Lilith Sorrengail, to like so many people. Like he just sucks. Like really bad. Then the next on my list is Varish. I guess like the reason he's not my worst is because he's dead already. So like he's not really an issue anymore. But yes, I agree with like some of the stuff Kyle said. Like he like took pleasure in it. And then I have Jack Barlo next, and I think it's just because he won't die, and so that makes him the worst. And then Panchek, who I just don't know the extent of how evil he's been. Like we know that from Xaden's speculation, Panchek is the one who is giving like Violet's whereabouts and some of this other stuff about like maybe what killed Queen Mariah, because that's where like the alloy hilted daggers were, so it could be like a targeted attack, like some of those things. But that's really just Xaden's speculation there. We don't really know how far it is for Varish, or excuse me, for Panchek. I also in that last conversation even wondered if Panchek was Venin, just because he
Right.
was like on his knees acting like he was at their mercy,
Yeah.
like a human, not like standing amongst them like he was also Venin. So I don't really know what's going on there. And then yeah, I agree that Halden just kind of seems like an idiot. He seems like a whiny baby who was like, well, if you're not going to give me my stuff, then I'm just going to bring my army. Like that kind of like
Yep.
energy is just kind of an annoying side character.
A little B.
Yeah, a little
I didn't actually list out the characters. I just wrote 100% aligned with Kyle on this one. Then he changed his a little bit, but I'm going to stick with it.
95%. Next question is, what is Jack Barlow's signet?
That's a great question. I did some research, and then I wonder if maybe he can like mirror someone's power, or he would have raw power himself, only because when he fights with Violet on the mat in Fourth Wing, or maybe it's Onyx or Iron Flame when he comes back, he like pushes like power into her in that moment. But she doesn't have the gray handprints like Dane does when Dane touches Jack later. So like that felt like Jack was channeling and like affected Dane as a person, as where for Violet that did not happen. So it makes me wonder, was that his signet or something? And then also when that one random girl channeled in the middle of class and they killed her immediately because they were like, everyone recognized she is channeling. But when Jack did that on the mat, nobody acted like what he was doing was some horrible thing.
Well, they didn't know about Venin at that point, right?
The leaders would have. I would think Kaori does.
Yeah.
Like Kaori was like, stop doing that, you know, and just like acted like all was fine, you know, but like, I don't know.
The only times I've seen people speculate about this, they've called it pain projection, that like his signet is pain projection, but I don't think anything has been labeled as that in this series so far, but that I think that was also listed under Berwyn's powers that he's displayed, although I don't remember the specific instance for that, so I don't know. That's just what I've seen people call it, that if that is his signet, that's what he was using on the mat, potentially.
Yeah. And it goes to question, like, now that he's lost his dragon, does he even have a signet? Like, now he just has whatever Venin abilities Venin have.
Yeah, I wasn't sure that he even manifested before he turned, because it didn't seem like he had a lot of time, but...
Yeah, I was going to say he's a second year, but I guess, yeah, he was dead for some of that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
All right. Our favorite Riddick line.
I love this question. I just went with the first one that came to my mind because that meant it was my favorite. And it's when he goes, ooh, he's using his wing leader voice. And, I was like, and he's sitting there with his popcorn. That's how I imagine that moment. Watching Xaden go off.
Yes.
I just put any of his like real talk moments, especially the time where, you know, he was like with Violet saying like, tell me the line that needs to be crossed.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Nice.
Mine was also one of the first that came to mind, which was when he was running towards Sawyer and he's like, look at you! And then Sleek snaps his teeth and he's like, look at you from a distance!
And mine was when he's grabbing everybody into a hug and he says, this feels right.
This is good.
It's pretty funny. This is good. This feels right.
Love it.
This next question submitted, this is exactly how it was worded. And I quote, never thought I'd ask this, but hottest Dane moment, ready, go.
I thought you asked this question again. You didn't change any of these wordings from others.
No, I didn't.
I thought this was you.
I'd like to preface this by saying Dane is not hot, but the most attractive thing that he said is regulation states that a writer should be healthy before beginning interrogation assessment, and he barked, ripping his gaze from mine to address Varish. Cadet Soaringale is clearly not healthy, and I will not participate in interrogation assessment of a cadet with a prior injury.
Got him.
Yeah. Because that was like the first time that I was like, oh, he's a little bit on their side. He's like, he's learning to use the rules for the betterment of his friends, not just using the rules to be a D-bag.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just went ahead and put in this paragraph from the end of Onyx Storm where he's talking to Sloane and trying to help her draw power from him and help Brennan. And he says, eyes here. Pull from the excess you feel in me and push to the deficit in him. You're not a weapon of destruction. You're not Venin. You're the artery power chooses to flow through your life. And then Sloane says, I'm going to hurt you. And he says, Gods, don't I know it. I'm here for it. I'll ship him if nobody else will.
Yeah, see, my quote is from Fourth Wing, chapter 33, right as he betrays her and says, I'll miss you, Violet. Oh, wait. I'm supposed to like this guy after one line about some eyes? Okay.
About some eyes.
I am happy for him and Sloane. I said this the whole last episode. I just
I
can't.
feel like you would be all
because
over
of the
it
internet.
if it were not for Kale.
I know. I just love Kale so much.
You can love both. It's okay.
I mean, I like Dane and I like Sloane. I'm here for it. Just not as fangirly as apparently everyone else is. And that's okay. I'm sure somebody relates to me out there in the world.
Oh, I'm sure lots of people do.
Yeah.
Okay, good. What'd you say?
It said rise up, Dane haters.
Yeah.
Rise up. Weigh in the comments.
It's your monthly weigh-in.
The amount of people that actually weighed in on that was
That made me
funny.
so happy.
amazing. So
funny.
good.
Keep going. You're doing great.
Some people do it like on random episodes too. I'm like, oh, good to know.
Yes.
I know.
I love it.
Okay, so one of my questions was, why is Dane so powerful? And it kind of goes right after that moment that Connor was talking about, where Sloane touches his arm and is like, someone like you shouldn't have all this power or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when I was researching this, some of the theories were that Daddy Atos is not Daddy Atos, but like General Atos. You know what I'm talking about? Just making
Important
sure
differentiation.
clear. It super is. So General Atos is Venin. So maybe Dane is like one of the evolved offspring or whatever.
Oh.
It's what that theory is. And we don't have any idea who Dane's mom is. So maybe she's some Venin person or who knows what.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I could get on board with that.
Well, it wasn't me. It's something on the internet.
Great theorizing, Lauren. So proud of you.
You can take credit for it. If it's on the internet, you could just say it was you. A lot of people do that.
Okay. I came
All
up with
right.
that.
Next up, what do you think the wedding was like?
Unforgettable. That's the song they played at the wedding as well.
Gotta love some Nat King
I just
Cole.
wrote, you gotta love the gif of the cow put in here. But I just wrote quick and bland with some unhappy dragons.
I just put in all capitals. Too bad I'll never know. Freaking off-screen weddings. But I talked about earlier that I had my whole headcanon of Garrick and Imagin as best man and maid of honor and the whole bit.
Sigale was something blue.
Sigale was something blue. Taran walks her down the aisle.
Something old as Taran.
Something borrowed is in Darna, since she's not supposed to have a second dragon.
Oh, yeah. What is the end to that
Anyways.
rhyme?
Something
new.
old, something new, something borrowed, something blue.
Oh, that's right.
Something new, the new brother.
Ooh.
Yes! Bodhi, thanks for being here. So that's what the wedding was like, everyone, in case you needed that. Any of my artist friends out there listening, please draw me that. I would love to see that illustration. It'd be amazing. Tear in a little tuxedo, like tie on his neck.
He's got a bow tie.
Yeah,
A
walking her down the
tuxedo.
aisle.
Made of shadows. All the black shadow. Anyway.
He is the knight, after all.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
is the night.
But don't change that dial. There's a whole nother section. Bear with us. Fan cues, hot takes, predictions.
Here we go.
The first question is, what signet would each of you have? I said for myself, I'd probably take Truthsayer or Mending. Both useful for different reasons, but particularly interested in Mending because it applies to like any broken thing. So like home repair, car dents, paper cuts, concerns of my past. No bills.
Nice. I'm here for
Amazing.
that because I live in your home.
Yep.
I kind of touched on this earlier. I think as somebody who struggles with so much anxiety, it's not even funny. I would want to be a precog so I could see all the things play out before I even had like any interaction with it. I would know who's going to be at the party. I would know who I'm going to sit by at the DMV. I would know what's going to happen in my day of work. And I'm with my boss that I randomly get texted to come in. All of those things. And I would just be super calm because I would be able to think it all through beforehand. And it'd be great. So that's what I want.
I think it would require a lot of patience because you'd still have to listen to people talk, even though you already know what they're going to say.
Yeah, but it's better than not knowing what they're going to say.
Okay.
Just saying. Anxiety is real. It is a stress.
I wrote dolphin speech, so I could write dolphins.
That's not what I expected you to say. That's so good.
Just kidding. Distance wielding probably would be pretty sweet.
Nice.
When I first was scrolling through, I could have sworn it said distance welding.
I can weld anything from afar.
Just looking at two pieces of metal, and now those are stuck together.
That's amazing. He's 30 feet away.
Distance wielding was like a really close one for me too, though.
When I first manifest a signet, it just looks like I'm always like trying to poop or I'm constipated all the time because I'm just focusing so hard. I'm like, weld.
Well,
Oh, I thought you were still talking about distance wielding. Like it's that hard.
Either one.
I
Either
really
one,
got to
honestly.
clench and think about where I want to go.
Hopefully to the toilet.
Usually the restroom, yeah. I got to get there now.
I put, with my luck, it would probably be something random like breathing underwater. However, if I could choose a signet, it would be distance wielding, and I would still be late to everything.
But you'd be less late, maybe.
Or I would take more time getting ready. That's the more realistic answer.
But if you did breathe underwater, you'd finally get your pirate adventure that you've been wanting
Yeah,
this whole
I
time.
could. I could have my own pirate adventure. That's very true. Although pirates usually stay above the water, but
This is true.
that's typically
And
the
modern day
goal.
pirates aren't nearly as fun as the ones we're thinking of.
Or even the ones we're thinking of super fun. I don't know.
You wouldn't steal a car.
Yeah, I actually would. Thanks for your concern.
Watch me. Oh my gosh. Okay. Which aisle would you live on if you had to pick one?
I would take my chances ons and all.
Oh. All right.
I also put Zenal just because it's orange and orange is my favorite color. But also they have pianos because we know that one guy was holding a piano over their heads that whole time. Probably still is.
You could
And
be
I love
playing
pl-
that
Still
one.
holding.
I love playing piano. So, you know, my
You could
favorite
be
color,
playing
one of my
some, like,
hobbies.
Suspenseful music as you're hanging above
As
visitors.
they're drawing a card.
And they're like, oh god, I hope it's not the piano. Well, at least we still be together. That's nice.
Yeah, so cute.
Oh, cute.
We're in love.
Aw.
And then John's answer.
I said a solitary one.
Sucks to be you, Connor.
So sorry.
That's okay because I said Devarelli if I get silk robes in bookstores. So I'd be
That's a
fine.
great point.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. I also don't think I would survive anywhere else. So
a solitary one
Devarelli.
next to Devarelli.
Yeah, that you can
So
visit.
we can
by, like those
visit.
little boats.
Yeah, to take a ferry.
You can say hi every now and then, you know.
It's like one of those
In
boats
my
that you
silk
pull along
robe.
the rope.
Yeah.
In your silk robe every
Yeah,
now
sail
and then.
over, come visit the chateau every now and then, you know what I mean?
Bring a book. Not surprising, in my opinion, that we got so many questions for
Yes.
Kyle specifically. So I gave them to each of us to ask. So my question for Kyle that was given was, what do you just think about this series specifically compared to Throne of Glass, since we just finished that?
That's really hard to say because it's not complete yet. But I think
That's fair.
overall I enjoy the pacing a bit more.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the main character, hopefully.
Yeah. I honestly, like, we'll talk about it a little bit later. Minorly downhill, but not nearly as much of a dip as I had with the other main character.
Okay. All right. All right.
All right, somebody wants to know what Kyle thinks will happen, and they'll consider it canon.
Yeah, no pressure.
Just what do you think's
How will
gonna
book
happen
5
here?
end?
How
Yeah.
is book
Happening
5
full
ends?
How is it gonna work out?
Yeah.
I see a page
Take your
with
time.
acknowledgements
Oh
Take
my
your time
gosh.
and recommendations for similar series if you read on Kindle.
That is how book 5 will probably end.
Wow.
So
That is incredible.
I don't like to flaunt it, but I think
Do you have a real answer for this?
no, actually, I was too focused on the bit.
Dang it, but the people want to. I want to know.
I don't know. It's hard to say how it'll end. I mean, assumedly, unless she's gonna break the formula that makes books good, the good guys will win in some way. I mean, if she wants to have the bad
What?
guys win, then like, yeah, like it depends on how specific you want to get, but the good guys will win. There you go. That sounds
Heard it
super
here
cheap,
first, folks.
but like,
Consider it canon.
it's sort of the weird thing because like, I obviously don't have abilities or predict things. You do need the book in front of you to start. Like first chapter, thesis statements are there. You go from then. So like until knowing where book 5 starts, I don't know how it would end.
Okay, so where do you think book 4? Like,
I also
since
don't
we're at
know
the
how
end-
that starts.
Well, I know, but like you know where we've ended Onyx Storm. So where do you, from that, what would you think would be the next start?
I feel like
Or-
book 4 would probably have to end with several things. Like the world, maybe not at large, but the islands and everyone all being more aware of the Irids. Like that's just something that is going to come to light. And then I feel like the Venin too. There's still so many people that don't really know about the Venin. And there's going to be a lot less room for like propaganda and stuff, which we didn't see basically any of in this book.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're going to sort of get back into like the people of the Isle realizing that everything they thought was true is not true. But obviously other stuff with the main character, like her dream walking and stuff, and her and Zayden's weird marriage relationship they got going on. Like, yeah. We talked about the big bad earlier. I'm kind of hoping that Jack honestly comes back, because I feel like more and more, like you said, if it is raw power or if it is mirroring or whatever, he is like he was pitched in the first book, the antithetical force to Violet. There's the whole like first line, like, I'm going to be the one to kill you. And I feel like he still could try to make good on that.
He could.
Yeah.
If he gets out.
Yeah, you just got to get out of there. Put yourself out there, man.
But
The worst that can happen. The worst you could say is no.
It's amazing. I feel like he's got to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Else is he still there,
Yeah.
like alive and
Go on,
around and
get.
talked about?
Yeah. All right. Our last submission says, at Prediction Master Kyle, will Riddick die in book 4?
He's really only set up to die in, I think, an attempt to stop Zayden at this point, plot-wise, because of his conversation he had with Violet about knowing the line that must be crossed. So I don't know if it would be in the 4th book, obviously, but if it does happen, I feel like it will be because his goal is to protect Violet, just like Liam did. And we all know how that ended for Liam.
Ugh.
So,
Kyle.
So you're saying like Zayden will cross the line?
yeah, I feel like that would be the only thing to like push Riddick into that sort of
Yeah.
danger. And like, who knows, it could just be another random death, but I feel like that would be at least what we've been set up for.
Yeah.
Sure.
Real quick, that's Liam, my Liam. Show some respect.
Yeah, Kyle. Get it right.
All right. The next submission says, I'm interested in everyone's thoughts on the criticisms of Onyx Storm, side characters, confusion, etc.
Huh?
I put elaborate. I'm not familiar.
Do explain.
Yes. So when Onyx Storm first came out, there was a lot of hate from some people saying that it was like way too confusing. They didn't know who half the characters were, and that this was a filler book where nothing really happened. Those were like the main criticisms.
And I think some of the confusions, like Llewellyn the person, Llewellyn the place, and some of that stuff. And a lot of people DNF'd this book.
Yeah. Well, I actually know someone who personally did. They said they're going to go back to it, but they told me that they did. Here's the thing with calling the 3rd book in a 5-book series a filler book.
It is.
It's the filling. So, like,
That was an amazing visual.
In the middle.
and like, yeah, I said before, the middle of trilogies, I think usually is sometimes the worst book because there's a lot of stuff going on and you don't get much of anything. Like, you get a lot of little bits. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's the 3rd book.
I like this one more than the 2nd book. For
I just
what
have
it's
five.
worth.
I just have 5 words. You know, did you read the book? That's it. That's all I gotta say.
They DNF'd it. That's what I'm saying. And then they trashed it on the internet.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like people dogging Frost and Starlight.
Yeah.
And those are the people that just didn't read it.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you DNF a
Tower
book,
of Dawn.
Yes, Tower of Dawn.
Or even Nesta's book.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep.
how are you
Yes.
going to like
oh yeah,
what?
the same person
Yeah.
that DNF'd Onyx Storm, I believe, told me that they had skipped that one, and then they went to the next one and realized like, oh, I need to read that one. And I was
Yeah.
like with them in conversation. I was like, well, yeah, that's what the intention was, right? Like,
part of the series.
am
next
I
book,
missing
next
something?
one.
Or?
It's the next one before.
In my opinion, I think like if you DNF a book, first of all, you have absolutely no right to review it
Yeah.
in any way.
Agreed.
If you,
I agree,
if there's like
yes.
something
I
on a
totally
rating
agree.
system, if you click DNF, it should lock you out of everything else and be like, okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
But like I've even seen like GoodReads reviews for things that's like DNF'd at 5%, 1 star. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you didn't even like that's not fair.
Since we talk about this series in the next question, I'll say that that's literally like watching Star Wars and not finishing it and then just being like, I didn't get it. What is Darth Vader's connection to that Luke guy anyway? And they're like, well, did you not watch like the most important part? I don't know.
Right. I do agree that like the very beginning of the book is a little confusing because she throws you right into the chaos, but I think it's supposed to be that way. Even coming out of Iron Flame, I still felt like there was a little bit at the very beginning that you kind of have to push through to catch up with like what's happening. And then the rest of the book does not feel that way to me at all. So I feel like when people stop reading the book at like 6%, they're right on the cusp of like getting into all the things that actually happen in this book. Because a lot does happen. I mean, it's still the middle of the series, but there's a lot of world building and like traveling and power development and reveals and stuff. There's still a lot that's going on in this book.
You're supposed to be confused.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah,
the thing is
it's
too,
part of the
like,
journey.
I get why people that have been reading these as they come out and they waited so long for this one to come out and they pick it up and expect to like remember everything. You're not going to. Like John and I
Yes.
went through these right in a row, so we're tracking well.
Yeah.
But you also live in the modern age, so like if it's been a while, look up like a YouTube summary or something of the first 2 books, and then you won't be confused. Like nobody's gonna hate you for doing that.
Yeah. And I think, like, for me on my first read, I was super lost. But, like, reading it with this podcast and, like, following along and all the things and just going from one book to the next. And obviously it's my reread as well, so maybe that's a difference. But, like, it all felt like it flowed really well. Like, it didn't feel weird. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, each book had a different pace for sure, but
Yeah.
They're 3 different books, so that's fine.
yeah.
Okay, well, Kyle already kind of brought us to Star Wars, but that is the next question that got submitted. Said, Rebecca recently replied to a comment saying, no, Xaden is not, all caps, like Anakin. And so what are our thoughts?
Kyle, you go first.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that this is like in reference to the bad things, right? Reasons vibe that Anakin and Xaden have. But Anakin turned quite a bit faster than Xaden did. And I feel like it's a bit unfair to compare since Star Wars has one source of its quote-unquote magic system, and the Empyrean series has 3 or more, maybe even more that we don't know of yet. But Xaden also has an entirely different background, being a son of a failed resistance. So, like, if the rebel forces in Star Wars had failed, and Luke had a son, and Luke was executed in front of that son, and that son grew up in a Sith college by force, but then turned into a Jedi, which propaganda said were evil, then Xaden would be like Anakin. But even then, not very much.
Wow. I think I followed that.
Yeah. I agree. And I think it was around you had a more like kind of thoughtful answer. So I just wanted to add a little bit to
gotcha.
that for you going first. But yeah, I think it's the idea that he keeps a little more like integrity, I guess. I feel like that's kind of not the right word, but emotions may be gone. But if his drive is to like protect Violet instead of gain power, then there's a huge difference in him like becoming the quote unquote bad guy or something like that.
Yeah. Anakin like went full evil.
Yeah.
Xaden has not done. He like pulled from the power out of necessity, but I mean Anakin was just like, yeah, I'm fully in it. Which granted he was also misinformed and thought that his like wife and kids were dead and stuff, but still.
I don't know anything about Star Wars, so
Well, that's what
Great
I was
combo,
going to
guys.
say. Is maybe this is like Rebecca saying that Xaden won't go full evil because she knows that Xaden isn't like Anakin or whatever.
All right. Oh, sorry.
Well, yeah, we have to. There's a long conversation. We got to have a jaw tick. We got to have a drinkies.
Heyo.
Oh, that's an aggressive drinkies.
All right. Rebecca Yaros has said that we've only seen 10% of Violet's second signet, so we're going to talk through some predictions, possibly on how it'll grow. I have thought about this because even though she can control what's happening in the dream, it's still just a dream. So how can she, like, quote-unquote, meddle effectively in a tangible way? Like, my only guess would be if she would, like, almost like live out the dream to kind of see different solutions or paths forward, like a Doctor Strange situation kind of thing. So she can keep going into the dream, make different decisions that have different consequences or perform different actions and see how everything plays out. And then she can kind of see where like the best solution is or the best outcome is or something like that.
Nice. That's cool. I think it'd be really cool to see her walk into people's minds while they're awake. Again, this did kind of happen on accident already in the throne room scene in Iron Flame, but part of me feels like that would be similar to an intrinsic, like Xaden can already read people's thoughts, so maybe her signet will include the speaking mind to mind with someone or with some added level of influence, like John said, meddling, where there was, you know, the dream in Onyx Storm where she was able to like remove herself from Xaden and then speak to him. And he said something like, that was the first time I ever lowered my hand in the dream or something like that. So I don't know if she'll be able to have some kind of influence since the Irids said that her dream walking signet was far more dangerous than lightning. Maybe she will even be able to like plant thoughts in other people's heads without them knowing, like a subconscious kind of a thing. And she'll have to grapple with the morality of her power and how she uses it. I could see that being like part of her development later in the series, maybe.
Yeah, I agree with that. I said it would be interesting to sort of see it grow more in like a lucid control of others' dreams, changing her own appearance maybe in them to gain information that they might only give to someone they trust. But also sort of like you said, like, yeah, like planting ideas like Inception. Paprika was like a 2006 animated movie. Super good if you're into that trippy dream stuff, but
Sure. I don't agree that it would be like while people are awake, because that is just like an intrinsic, and obviously we don't know how those work, like, because any intrinsic that we know of is dead or probably hiding it. I don't know about that. I would love to see her like be able to create a dream, like, for people, not just walk into an existing something, but like maybe somebody isn't dreaming yet, and so she literally creates the environment, almost like a hallucination type thing. I don't know.
This is cool because I think there's so many cool things that Rebecca could do with this. And if she thinks it's still only like 10% developed, it's going to be awesome no matter what it is. I'm excited.
Okay, well, is there any guesses for the next book title?
I wrote Silver something, just because her hair and everything's been like kind of a onyx is like a metal, I guess, and so is silver, and so is, I guess, Fourth Wings, whatever. But and then like it's also a color, like with the onyx and the silver. So maybe it's that.
Yeah, and the book cover kind of fades into silver for Onyx Storm.
I mean, a lot of people think that it's just gonna keep, because like it just like drains down in color, almost like a Venin is sucking the magic out of the books. And so the next one, the bottom of Onyx Storm is silver. So if it follows that color, that it would keep going with
match.
that. So,
Yeah. Lauren wrote silver something, and I wrote catchy. I like it.
2 words. The Dookie.
Yay.
Catchy. I like it.
But it will be 2 words for sure.
That's fair.
Hope so.
Of course.
You can quote me on it.
That's going to be on the back of the book as a blurb. It's going to be 2 words. Job.
Catchy, I like it. Con.
I went the same. I mean, just a mix, really, of the 2 previous answers. Like I said, silver gray, going off the same sort of vibes as Lauren, and then dream
Dookie.
or earth or sky.
Silver Dream. That's a good one.
Ooh.
That's a good one, Kyle.
Yeah, I like it.
Silver Sky. Silver Sky would be really cool. Just like with her lightning and stuff. Well, let me react to it before.
No, I know. It's just funny because under Kyle's note, I wrote, real ones know it's silver sky.
And I wrote, funniest thing you said all year.
Gonna put it in our note.
Yeah, you got to write that down.
But yeah, I did do sky because of her, power, and then dream because of her other power, and then earth because the gray earth is sort of maybe silvery
Ooh.
when they desiccate it.
Gray Earth would be like book 4. Everything gets drained.
Oof.
Yeah. And then they got to go to Chalk Zone with Rudy and recolor it.
Chalk Zone.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Wow. That's a deep dive.
I've never had a whole segment of my brain unlocked so fast out of whiplash. Oh my
Who's got the chalk? Rudy's got the chalk.
Wow.
Chalk Zone. That was incredible. Oh my gosh. I'm going to need a while to recover from that. That's really funny. Okay, next question is thoughts on book 4 having multiple POVs. I think it will potentially have multiple POVs. I know not a lot of people are excited about that. I think I could be excited about that.
I don't know, man. If they do, keep it between Zayden and Violet. Don't muddy it up with a bunch of
Did you not like the
POVs.
POVs in this one?
Didn't.
With Rhea and Imagin?
Nope, I really didn't.
Me either.
Nope. Because it was like she needed to add something to the end of the book. She needed some more pages. And I was like, why are we getting these random POVs?
I so
Like,
disagree.
Imogen's was like much better than Rhiannon's.
Well, Reese was pretty short.
I feel like it was a character development for Violet, because Violet's been, so sacrificey herself and trying to do all the things herself, but instead is finally like having a moment where she knows she's supposed to kind of stay in her lane and trust her friends. And then we kind of see that from her friends. I thought it was epic.
Yeah.
Okay.
From those women, but also from like Violet's like growth.
That's true. Because she's like, I can't be everywhere at once. And then it like switches to the...
Like that's like the whole lead in.
Yeah.
I think what made it rough for me to kind of like get behind was because it was just like, it was within the last few chapters. And it's like it was a last minute decision for her to be like, I'm going to change these point of views. And it was only for a chapter. So it was like, we didn't get anything like that throughout the entire book. And all of a sudden we have one chapter of a change in perspective. I don't know. It just kind of threw off the flow a little bit for me.
I agree. The
It
flow
got me
was a bit
pumping.
thrown
I was
off,
excited.
but like it's forgivable in that brief time. But if like, if the whole next book is like this person, this person, this person, this person, I would not even want it.
No, I don't think it'll
Just
be
jumps
like
around.
that. I think it made sense in this scene because there were so many different parts of the battle going on in different places, and she literally couldn't be everywhere at once.
Yeah.
So I think it made sense, especially with all the cliffhanger questions. Like, there are little snippets of information we get in those 2 POV chapters that tell us, oh, this person was over here, they were over here. Like, here's what all of our characters were doing, so that you can have some more like speculation and stuff at the end. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could see it being like a Sarah J. Maas kind of POV switch situation. But I could see that maybe if our group gets separated again in book 4, maybe we would get a POV of someone that's already been established now. I don't know that we would get like new ones thrown in, but if some people stay back at Erasia or Basgaeth, and then some others, if like Xaden's going to the Barrens with somebody, or like they're going on their pirate adventure.
I don't know why, this might make me a hypocrite, but I don't know why it sits with me better and makes me a little more interested if she would maybe do it almost kind of like by group, I guess, if you think of it that way. So like, I guess it would mainly be like Violet and Xaden's perspective. If there's a lot of separation between Violet and like Iron Squad or like Second Squad or whatever, then there would be some POVs where it would follow them kind of around doing stuff.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I think she would only do that if it made sense for the story. Like if we had to follow people in 2 different geographical locations, I guess.
Well, and I think given the series so far, I really don't think that if we do get a different POV, it's going to be very few and far between, because for the whole series we've only ever known what Violet knows. And if we're getting different POVs now, because there were times that her and Xaden have been separated, and the only thing that let us know what Xaden was up to was the letters she read and the info that she got. I don't see a reason why she would change that reader's perspective so late in the series to all of a sudden be like, well, here's what everyone's doing. Because I feel like we are supposed to feel just as lost in the misinformation as Violet is.
That's true. I mean, she gives us a Xaden POV the last chapter of every book so far.
Yeah.
So that I was expecting. But I think I agree with that. I don't think it would be as regular of a thing.
I think it makes sense to me that there would be more, especially because she's opened the door to that happening from this book, since we had 4 different POVs in this book. I also really personally liked it from like seeing, like I really loved seeing Rhee's brain and like how she has to like think through all the different leadership scenarios and formations, her relationship with her dragon and that conversations. I love learning about Imogen's family, where she like grounds for like whenever she does her magic or her like signet and stuff, and her relationship with her dragon. And then obviously like we get her relationship with Quinn and everything. I just like seeing their inner workings as a human, like as a person.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about another POV. Not necessarily that it has to happen the whole book, but like those chapters, I really appreciated that. And then knowing that information about them going forward. But
I understand that. I will say that like out of any POV we get, I would be willing to bet that we will never get Xaden's until their bond is back, because they are so separated right now. I feel like Rebecca would keep us separated from him as well.
I mean, if she's erased the memories of Violet, so Violet doesn't even know where he is. I don't think it would make sense to get his POV while he's gone. Yeah,
that would be interesting. Yeah.
I do think she could potentially use the alternate POVs for like Rhee and Imagin as a way to introduce more romance back into the series while our 2 main characters are separated. We know that Rhiannon is like still seeing Tara on and off, right?
Yeah, on and off.
Sort of, whenever they are together. And then I could maybe see, if I get a spicy scene between Imagin and Garrick, I will not be mad about that. That's for sure.
I will say it'd be interesting to get maybe later into book 4 or into book 5 of Jasinia's point of view, as maybe she's starting to take down all the information of what happened.
That would be interesting.
But,
oh, what if like the whole last chapter is like, I don't know, like a journal entry from Jacinia or something. I guess the whole book is being transcribed by her, but
It's not her journal.
yeah, that's true.
Interesting.
All right. Ranking the 3 books so far, which is your favorite?
I kind of just wrote this on impulse, but bottom to top, 3, 2, 1.
I'm the opposite. I like 1, 2, 3.
Well, not totally opposite. We match on 2.
Oh, that's a good point. I just really love like reading Fourth Wing gave the same energy and feelings that reading like The Hunger Games and like Divergent and stuff from when I was in high school. Like it had the same like excitement and feelings like set up and stuff. It's gone way off from that in its own right because it should because it's its own series. But like that first book, it just so good.
That's why I had my top one because I'm also just like origin stories. So
No, that's
Wait, so your
my
ranking
favorite.
is the same?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my
'cause
favorite.
ours
I
is
said
one.
bottom to
Top.
top, and you went top to bottom. Gotcha.
Always got to start at the top, work your way down.
Save the best for last.
That's a point of preference.
Ew.
Whoa. All right. I like their current order.
Guys. Holly, calm down.
You like
well,
their
that's what we
current
like.
order?
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we're all in the same boat.
Oh
1, 2,
wow.
3.
Okay, so I'm the minority here. I feel like Iron Flame is pretty much always last in my ranking.
Ooh.
I think Onyx Storm might be my favorite, or it's tied with Fourth Wing. So if I had to put them in order, which I'm really bad at this. I don't like to pick favorites. Don't ask me to pick favorites. It's not nice.
Which one's your favorite?
Shut up. I wrote Onyx Storm, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame.
You wrote those?
I
Are
wrote
you
all
sure?
of them. it's on the internet now.
You guys are rich.
You sure?
No, I'm not sure. That's my whole point. It could be Fourth Wing, Onyx Storm, Iron Flame.
We can
but
move
those
on.
are my 2 options. Yeah. Move on.
Okay, the next question was, did you have an opinion switch? Or like, what is your biggest opinion switch from the series starting point to now?
I admittedly read both of yours before I wrote mine, but I think mine is still Violet because I feel like at the beginning of the series, I was very like, wow, this girl like knows what she's doing. She's super smart. She's like being like using all of her intelligence and blah, blah, blah. And then like recentlier, I'm like, why are you not asking questions? You are just letting things go, not thinking about anything. And I'm like, I don't know. Early Violet wouldn't have let you do this.
All right.
Nah, I'm still a big Violet stan. Love
Yeah,
her.
me too.
I mean, don't get me wrong. She's still great, but
Yeah.
I had a lot of hate towards Imagin in Fourth Wing. Like, she just came on really strong. She was very clearly, like, she was helping Violet, but, like, clearly for Xaden and, like, not because she actually cared about Violet. Imagin also was one of the people who wanted to, like, kill Violet while they were under the tree and stuff during that little meeting. And then also Violet thought that Imagin liked Xaden, and so that was the only information I had. So I was like, no, girl, back up, you know, kind of a thing. But then in like book 2, she like is actually there for Violet. Like Xaden's not even there, and they go running together, and they're like this whole friendship and everything. And then book 3, like Imagin is like one of my all-time favorites. I love her so much. So
Yes.
I went on a whole journey with her. Also, I had to put Xaden on here, but like in the opposite of what Imagin just went through, because he was one of my all-time favorite book boyfriends. From the literal moment you meet him on the parapet, I was like, absolutely yes, sign me up. But now I feel like I don't know what to do. Like he's just kind of awkwardly in limbo. Like, am I supposed to love him? Am I supposed to not love him? Is he like a bad guy? Is he a good? Like, I don't know where my feelings are supposed to be. Like Rebecca has not told me yet, and so I've just gone from like full Xaden all the time to I don't know. And it stresses me out.
suck it, Shadow Boy.
I mean, that's a point of preference.
Paradise.
Got him.
I do have a couple. Honestly, Naolin, because like she kind of like looked up to him at the start of the book, and
a good
now
one.
his whole thing with Varish and Jack, and kind of how he treated her surrounding the RSC thing and all the torture. I guess she did like kind of help her get out, but still motives and all that. Still very suspicious of him because he's still around. And then also, I feel kind of the same way around about Markham. He was their professor. He's supposed to be like this really respectable guy. Even how she wrote some of like his dialogue and like how he got a little bit like snarky and stuff with the
Yeah.
dialogue once we found out that he was maybe not as straight arrow as we thought he was. That definitely changed too.
Nice.
I feel like Lilith was sort of one of those two where like the first book, especially in the in-between, between like book 1 and 2, we were like, oh, Lilith is the worst. I bet she's Venin and she is like, she's going to be the big bad. Like we had all these crazy theories about Lilith and then she ended up like sacrificing herself for them.
Sacrifice
I feel like
yourself.
she's going to sacrifice herself. I feel like Dane was one of the biggest ones for me. Also a similar situation. Like we had so much time to hate on him after book 1. And then overall, though, I really love how Rebecca takes everything from seeming very black and white in book 1 to this complexity and morally gray vibe of book 3, where there's a lot of things that are up in the air. I mean, that's kind of a typical fantasy journey. Like things aren't exactly what you thought they were, you know, based on your upbringing. But I just love how she does that for so many characters. Like we can list off several characters that, you know, we thought were terrible, but actually they're a lot more complex than we thought, or actually they were a good guy, or people that we liked that ended up in a really complicated place or something. So I like that she weaves all of that into her writing in so many different ways.
Nice. All right, somebody asked for a compilation video of all of our pre-chap blurb sing-songs. I'm pretty sure we already did that. I worked really hard on a compilation of those.
It didn't have all of them, though. It was only up to episode 15.
Oh
so
my goodness.
Okay, well, it's still saved up to episode 15. We can just add in the last few.
Yep.
But should we do one just for this episode, just for funsies?
Should we?
I can't tell if John's like, no.
What, are we just giving these out now?
Yeah, I don't want to force it. You know what I mean?
She did say pre-chat blurb.
She actually didn't say pre-chap blurb. She said, pre-chap! Ew. If I was listening to this podcast, I would have just turned it off. Wild.
Wow. That
Careful
was
what you ask for
certainly-
out there.
Yeah.
Certainly a unique one. A blurb to remember.
Blurb heard around the
Blurb to
world.
end all blurbs.
You'll get them when the next book comes out. Be patient.
I thought you were just saying B.
Speaking of bees, how do the writers pee? How do the writers pee during a 12-hour flight when they don't even stop for the dragons to drink water?
Yes. Spray and pray.
I said hopefully with the wind and not against it.
I wrote, they can't take that long of a flight until they've passed the don't pee or you'll be tortured class. But for real, my real answer is they just hold it. I am a teacher. I've worked most work days without peeing. It can be done.
It's really unhealthy.
What do you want, a
best
trophy?
life. Yeah. I can go from before
Congratulations,
school
you
rehearsal,
didn't pee at work today.
school and after school rehearsal without going pee.
It's because you cry so much. That's how liquid leaves your body.
That's how you release it through your tears.
Gross. Disgusting. But I would assume they just hold it to answer the question for real life. So
I don't have an
They
answer.
have canteens. I mean, at least for the guys, that's pretty easy to do.
Just don't get stuck.
That's the worst.
wow.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I want to move on from this question.
Yeah.
Please.
I personally have the bladder of a goldfish, so I would not make it. I would simply not survive. I wouldn't die by falling off my dragon or anything. I'd just die from holding my pee in for too long.
A bladder infection.
I would explode. Okay, so that is the end of our submitted questions and theories. I have a little space here for any other theories or thoughts that we maybe came across that weren't submitted. So for me, I had just kind of a general thought. Do you think that there's maybe a seventh god, since there was a seventh breed of dragon we didn't know about, and everything else about the series seems to be in sixes?
Yes.
Cool. Me too.
Even if there's not a seventh god, obviously, like, I would think there's still like a seventh original writer. Like, it's not just the original six, like that kind of thing. Even if there's not a god, I think that there's something with the seven because of the Irids. But
If there's not a seventh god, then their throne's just waiting to be taken.
Ew.
I mean, there is seven islands, right, too? Because, like, Deverelli chooses not to worship any of them. And then the other six have.
Well, and we
one,
didn't
right?
see Loisum.
Yeah.
So I think there's still probably some more to explore, but I don't know. I have mentioned General Daramore a couple of times in this episode. I feel like he is alive and a big bad Venin, and Rebecca just wants us to forget about him, like I literally just did for about 3 months. So General Daramore was a general in the Great War, where they ruined the land that is now known as the Barrens, causing the dragons to abandon that land. And he fought as the enemy of the first 6. So I feel like maybe he tried to be the 7th and wanted to bond with an Irid, but they left, or he wasn't successful, and maybe he's the one that the Fables of the Baron warn about, where there's like the third brother who grew jealous of the Riders and Flyers and channeled directly from the earth instead. That's just kind of my floating theory on that. I don't know if he'll be like the biggest bad, but maybe if he was like the original one, I don't know. And then lastly, I still have a terrible feeling that all of the terrible foreshadowing about Xaden going all in on his Venin hood and destroying literally everyone and everything except for the one he cares for most, I still have a feeling that that isn't going to happen to Xaden specifically, that maybe this is foreshadowing for Naolin and Brennan or whoever Xaden's new brother is. That's just kind of I just keep thinking about that, so I wanted to throw it in here.
Okay, I have a couple. I, first of all, don't think that the RSC serum, like if it gets used on Violet again, it won't work to block her from Andarna because she's an Irid. And when the big Irid, was that Leothin, blocks out Taran, Violet says it reminds her of the RSC serum. So it makes me think that if that was to happen again, she would still have that connection. Because when it happened to her in Iron Flame, Andarna was asleep. So we don't really know how that actually affects Andarna. So that's just a random theory of mine.
I just had a note on Lauren's note about that maybe if that does happen to Violet, where she gets poisoned with the serum or whatever and can still talk to Andarna, that maybe that's where she would get the idea for using Andarna's venom or something for an antidote of some kind. That was just kind of what sparked that. Anyway, continue.
Connor and I were having a conversation randomly one night after a live event. She and I end up talking for a couple hours afterwards every single time after we've stopped going live. I was talking about how nobody ever talks about Imagin's second signet. Like, even we've gone through like all of this stuff and we've mentioned it like 2 seconds maybe. And I just randomly had a thought about in Fourth Wing, Imagin has like that little workout room. Violet acts like she's never seen before, and it seems like only the marked ones use it, and like it's not like a regular space. And so I went and looked it up to like see what it was, and the only line here is it says that she, being Imagin, she quickly follows after me, then leads me towards the corner on the left where glass meets stone and pushes open a door I've never taken the time to notice before. So it makes me wonder if like Imagin's using her second signet here to like make a stone door and block off this little spot. This is a total random. I've never seen that anywhere else. This is just my own thoughts. So I just thought it was kind of interesting if that was the case.
Or maybe the door's there and she uses her signet just to hide it whenever they're not using it.
Or like seal it off or something.
Yeah.
Just because it says it's stone and she at least turned that shield to stone. Whether or not that means she could like move stone or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
all right.
I don't know. Interesting. I really would like to know what the ward, like when they're adjusting the wards at the beginning of this book, Sawyer tries to take one off and it doesn't do anything. And then he tries another one and then it works. And Riddick is the only one who's like, what did we just take off of that ward stone? And everyone's just like, whatever, move on with life. So I'm really worried about whatever ward they took off. It's only on the Basgiath stone. So if something's going to happen because of that, it's going to happen at Basgiath. So just keeping that one a little nugget in the back of my mind.
If Riddick's an evil Venin, then he already knows it was on purpose.
That's only because Sawyer did it. So I don't know about that one. I also saw a random theory, I didn't write it down, where someone thinks that the island of Deverelli is actually serving of the god Hedotus, because in one of the pre-chap, it says it is unwise to favor one god. It would be better to like not serve any of them than to choose one specifically. And so that island says it doesn't serve any god. And so that would be the wise thing to do. And then whenever she's like challenged on that island, it's more about like her wisdom in a situation compared to on Hedotus. It's like their life choices or whatever, and they're kind of like judging their life choices. So that's just like a super random, I don't know if that matters, but I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
And then my final thing is that Xaden has not completely gone yet. He has one piece of his soul left. And so maybe this one piece of his soul or whatever is like enough that will somehow bring him back. Like he's not fully gone, full Venin. And I get this from Onyx Storm chapter 65, where he is full on Onyx storming at this time and his shadows are going everywhere. And he says, I love her. That is the emotion I cling to, the fire of pure power burning at the feeling's edge, which I wonder if that is Violet, like the fire of pure power burning at his feeling's edge. And I know if I take it any further, it will be the next final piece to float away, as in Violet. So I bare my teeth and I yank my hands away from the ground, gasping full breath as my heart thunders. So it's like he's ready to take that last piece away, but instead lifts his hands off and is holding on to that one tiny thing, which is Violet. So I think that might be the thing. And so that's why I'm like, maybe it's love. Maybe love is the answer. And it's going to like, I'll be fine in the end because of that. So I don't know. That's just my hopes and dreams.
All right.
Did you guys have anything? You didn't write it, but.
Pretty much everything that I thought of was something we questioned earlier on in this little Q&A.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Well, I wrote one last honorary jaw tick for the end.
Aw.
One last drinkies to say
dookies.
goodbye. Cheers.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You guys, this series has been so much fun. Thank you for reading and theorizing and fangirling and laughing and crying with us every week. This community is our absolute favorite thing about reading, and we are so glad you're here. But we are not quite saying goodbye to the Empyrean series yet. Next week, we'll be concluding our Empyrean discussions for now with a super special, super fun conversation with Lexi and Nicole from the Fantasy Fangirls podcast. They have just wrapped up their own 12-week deep dive of Onyx Storm, so we will be chatting with them next week about highly debated theories, their podcasting and reading journeys, as well as EnchantiCon 2025, where we will all get to hang out together in person this August. So come back next week. You will not want to miss it.
And following our Fantasy Fangirls episode, we'll be taking a short 1-week break before diving into Quicksilver, Book 1 of the Fae and Alchemy series by Callie Hart, where we're introduced to Sarah's Fane. She has spent her life hiding, her powers, her thefts, her thirst for survival. But when a job gone wrong brings her face to face with death himself, Saris must decide what's more dangerous, the power inside her or the man who wants to use it. Woo! Baby! I can't tell you how excited I am that myself and Kyle will be leading the ladies as first-time readers through this story. So get your book ordered up and follow along with us here in a couple of weeks. Until next time, stay wordy, stay nerdy, don't stress, and stay blessed.
Stay blessed.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next week.
You muted, Lowen.
You're muted.
See you later.
Thank goodness we got that in. All right, see you guys.
It's a close one.
How did they know I would see him later?
Show up later and they're like, whoa, I was not prepared for this.
I'm tired.